Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto x Toph x Ty Lee x Jean? The movie. Huge shout out to HaretaSora for this story. If you want more awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. A frown formed on the face of a girl as she walked through the moderately familiar island that she had spent a vacation or two relaxing on growing up. She had her light brown hair in a French braid, her outfit consisting of a slightly baggy pink top and pants that showed off her full stomach and slightly hid her chest, as ever since they became an E-cup she had started feeling a bit more self-conscious about them and the stares they garnered. Her name was Ty Lee, daughter of a Fire Nation noble, who had thought that when one of her best friends Azula had shown up at her circus things would start getting exciting. Only now she and Mai were off alone while Azula took care of something more military-related. Come on Mai, stop being so gloomy and help me find something to do while Azula is off being busy, she whined as she flipped over to her hands to walk on, as being a circus performer had allowed her to gain immense balance and flexibility. I don't care Ty Lee, I just want to get back to the inn, her gloomy black-haired friend said before she sent a glare towards her with a slight sigh after seeing the pout on her friend's face. If you want something to do, how about I show you pretty girls to the haunted cave of Ember Island? A boy they figured to be a local said as he leaned against a nearby house. Oh, haunted cave. That sounds so cool, Ty Lee said excitedly while Mai rolled her eyes. We're fine, Mai quickly replied with a glare before Ty Lee whined. But Mai, it could be something cool. You are all about spooky and gloomy stuff and a haunted cave is totally your thing, she said as Mai held in a groan as she couldn't resist the intrigue of a haunted area since, with the existence of spirits, it was a possibility that they could be legitimately haunted. Whatever, but Mai said, turning towards the boy, grabbing him by the collar as she pulled out one of her daggers and held it to his neck. If you try anything fresh, I won't hesitate. Got it? She asked before the boy grew as pale as snow and quickly nodded in fear. So what is this haunted cave about? Is the spirit dangerous? Ty Lee asked while they followed the boy out of the town and into the small forest outside of it. Well, apparently deep inside the cave is some temple that holds this boy, the boy said as Mai raised an eyebrow with a frown. Apparently? Are you not sure or something? Mai asked while the boy rubbed the back of his neck nervously. Well, the cave has been caved in for a long time. We hear a voice occasionally speak inside and it does yell at us whenever we shoot our fire bending through the bits of rock we can see through, he said as Mai groaned, and Ty Lee gasped. You firebend at this poor boy who is trapped in the cave. Why haven't you tried helping him? Ty Lee asked in shock as the thought of basically prodding someone trapped in a cage with a hot stick, human or spirit, was just plain cruel. It's not our fault. The guy has to be some kind of monster if he's trapped in there or something, he said, cowering a bit under Mai's cold glare. Just show us where the cave is and I might not have Ty Lee leave you paralyzed on the ground, Mai said before the boy quickly nodded and continued to guide them, cursing in his mind how tourists were always trouble. Here, the temple is in there but you can't get too far in. The rocks make it so you'd have to be made of rubber or something to actually get through, he said while Mai just jerked her thumb behind her, telling him to leave, which he quickly did without a second's hesitation. Hello? Is someone in there? Ty Lee called out into the hole in the rubble as she could barely see what she figured to be the front steps of the temple through it. Just leave me alone. How many times do I have to tell you all? And I swear if you launch fire at me again I will launch it back. A boy's voice yelled, echoing through the cave before Ty Lee frowned. I'm not here to hurt you. Are you okay? How long have you been trapped? Ty Lee asked while Mai frowned and rose an eyebrow. I'm fine. Just leave me alone. Why does no one get that concept? The boy yelled annoyed before Mai pulled Ty Lee away from the opening. Ty Lee, this doesn't concern us. If you want to help him, just tell the authorities and they'll handle getting him out of there, Mai said as she wasn't sure why her friend was worrying about some random boy in a cave. No. I can't just leave knowing he's in there. Plus I doubt only some kids our age know about it, which means others know but no one does anything, Ty Lee said with a frown before she moved back towards the opening and, much to Mai's shock, started to crawl through it. Ty Lee, what are you doing? Mai asked as she grabbed her friend's ankle before she entirely made her way through the opening. Let go, Mai. I'm going to try and help him. Can you honestly just stand there knowing some kid has been trapped in a cave for who knows how long and not help him? She asked before Mai frowned and let out a long groan. Fine. But I am going to get Azula as maybe she can help or something, Mai said before letting go of Ty Lee's ankle. Though be careful. I don't want you getting crushed in a cave, and she added before Ty Lee continued crawling through. Got it. I'll be careful, Ty Lee said as she was glad she was just the right size to squeeze through the opening, despite it being a bit of a tight squeeze with her chest. She smiled as she reached the end of it, using her flexibility to pull herself out of the opening and handstanding and flipping slowly to return to her feet. See Mai. I'm all good. She yelled through before immediately wishing she hadn't. It seemed the vibration from yelling caused the rock wall to shift ever so slightly. The vibration seemed just enough for some rocks to come loose and completely close off the opening. Mai. Can you still hear me? She yelled through the door, hoping either her friend could hear her, as that meant there could possibly be airflow. If not, then she hoped her friend had went to go get Azula. No, but I can. Did you seriously get in here and then immediately get trapped? The boy said as she turned around and started to walk towards the temple. The temple itself was run down with various holes in the roof, which was expected with it being trapped in a cave-in. It didn't look like anything like the capital temple she had seen a few times, as it was much, much smaller and had an odd red archway in front of it. And imagine a Shinto temple basically, maybe. Please tell me you know of some like back way out, or hidden tunnels or something, she said as she carefully made her way through the front door. She frowned as she heard the sound of chain jangling before a figure walked into the front room and was rendered speechless. The boy looked easily her age, with natural tan skin and blonde hair that spiked out in every direction, with two bangs framing his face as she swore was the color of gold, and even brightened up the dark room. As he stared at her, his dazzling blue eyes looked at her in curiosity before she noticed the 3 strange whisker marks on each cheek. She continued to look him over, noticing he only a pair of ragged, but clean, red pants and a pair of wooden sandals. That and his figure was amazing. His abs were a nice 6-pack and he had the muscles and physique of a swimmer or runner. It took her a while, his abs being a large distraction, to notice the odd tattoo over his stomach. The tattoo was an odd spiral with 4 scribbly-looking spikes above it pointing up and 4 below pointing down, and 8 trigram seal. His aura was beautiful as well, a stunning orangish gold that blazed around him. The only odd thing about it was the ball of dark red on his stomach where his tattoo was located. She was snapped out of her daze from staring at his muscles, while looking at his aura, before he snapped his fingers at her to get her attention. As she broke her eyes away from his muscles, she noticed the iron manacle around his wrist that had a chain attached to it which led back towards the room he came from. Are you done staring? Cause I said I'm not sure about an exit sign. I'm chained up, I can't really explore, he said as he pointed to the manacle, jingling it with a groan before he tried to walk closer only for the chain to reach its length and him almost fall backwards. Oh my goodness! Why are you chained here? Are you okay? She asked as she noticed the manacle was tight on him, showing he had possibly been wearing it for a while and he grew too big for it. I'm fine, but you really shouldn't have come in here, especially since you are trapped here as well, and I can't really help you since I'm stuck, he said as he started to walk back into the other room while she followed. But you're chained up in here. Why didn't you call for help or, fire Ben? You said something about launching fire back if that kid shot it at you, so why haven't you melted the chain or something? She asked as they entered what looked like to be the room he spent most time at. She quickly noticed a makeshift table made out of a hunk of rock, a set of cups, a tea set, some bedding and what looked like to be a bucket that collected water that dripped from the exposed cave ceiling above them. It was also in this room that she could see the end of the chain, it being embedded in the middle of some mini shrine in the very back of the room. I can't melt the chain. The damn monks, however they did it, made it so it can't be melted. Not even the shrine or the rock the chain is connected to can be melted, he said as he pointed his palm towards the chain before a torrent of white flames shot out of it and onto the chain. She, even though she was on the opposite side of the room, could feel the heat from the white flames, and she also noticed how he didn't do any stances like Azula had to do. As the flames died down, she frowned at the sight of the still intact and not even reddened chains. See? Don't you think I tried it the first time I was chained up as a kid? He asked before he flinched at the slip of the tongue. Since a kid? I'm so sorry for you. Tylee yelled as she tried to leap forward to hug him, tears in her eyes from hearing he's been here for so long only for him to hold her at arm's length with his hand on her forehead. Don't be sorry for me, I'm fine here. I get by eating the lizards that scurry in here and drinking the water I purify by boiling. The only thing I want is for people to leave me alone and stop shooting fire at my home, as putting it out when I can only barely reach the front door is really difficult. If I can't leave, I at least don't want my home being burned, he said with a sigh before she moved back from his hand. Then please tell me what I can do to help you at least. Maybe I can help find a way to get it off of you, she said as he groaned and sat down at his makeshift table. If you really want to help or something, how about you try and find a way out of here for yourself or something? Also check out the other rooms, as maybe there is some stuff that can be useful, he said as she nodded and gave a little salute before she was about to run off, only to stop and turn around with a smile. My name's Ty Lee, by the way. It's nice to meet you, she said as the man smiled slightly nervously and nodded. Naruto, nice to meet you, he said as she smiled softly and nodded before she walked off to explore the temple more than he could. The other rooms of the temple were just as worn down as Naruto's living quarters, if not worse. Her flexibility and acrobatics came in handy with entering parts of rooms, as parts of hallways and halves of some rooms were moderately blocked by rocks. She couldn't find anything of use, as mostly everything was either destroyed or ruined by water. She couldn't even find another way out, as rocks blocked everything outside the temple. It wasn't until she entered the last room in the very back of the temple did she see something possibly interesting. The item was a white fire in the middle of an empty room, and the closer she got she could see what looked like a book, still intact inside the flames, which thoroughly confused her. She knew she had to be careful, as the flames felt nearly as hot as Naruto's, before she used some fire tongs she had seen in the main room to pick the book out of the fire. She had to be fast, as the second she got the book out of the flames and onto the ground, the tongs started to melt from the heat of the flames. The book was still steaming with heat as it sat on the ground, causing her to take another trip back to the main room to grab 2 fire pokers to use almost like chopsticks to carry it back to Naruto. It was a bit difficult with the closed hallways, but she figured that throwing it wouldn't hurt the book if it was able to survive flames. Back already, and you found a book? Why are you carrying it like that? Naruto asked as she set the steaming hot book on the rock table. Because it was in this bowl of white flames like the ones you shot out, and I thought it might be interesting for you, but be careful, it's hot, she said, ending with confusion as Naruto opened the book like it was nothing despite it still being steaming hot. It's fine, since fire can't really hurt me. Don't ask me why, as I don't have time nor the want to explain, he said, waving off the question on her mind, while he flipped through the pages until a slip of paper drifted out from between some pages. Naruto didn't even let it touch the ground before he read it over, a smile growing bigger on his face before he tossed down the book on the table and rushed towards the shrine. Why so happy? What was that paper? She asked as he turned back at her, waving the odd slip in the air, with a large smile. This, Ty Lee, is my chain's key. The monk must have hid it in the book back there before they left, and caused the cave-in. I think they thought I would never be able to find it, and no one would enter given the stigma the shrine has had on this island, he said as she watched him stick the paper on the front of the shrine. She watched as the chain connected to the shrine started to break apart link by link, crumbling into pieces. They continued to break apart before the manacle on his wrist opened up and fell to the ground, revealing a slightly less tan-colored wrist compared to the rest of his skin. His wrist even had some cuts on it from being stuck in a small manacle. Finally! I got that freaking thing off me. Finally I can leave this crappy place after all these years, he said excitedly before Ty Lee hugged him, and in the heat of the moment, he hugged her back before frowning and moving her away. Did you find a way out for you, or well us now? He asked as he started walking out of the room with her following behind him with a slight pout before she shook her head. No, since everything is blocked. I think the only way out is if I wait for my friends to get me out, or you help me get out the way I came in, she said as he sighed and ran his hand through his hair. I should be able to find or at least make a way out, he said while turning towards the entrance as she squealed and bounced alongside him with a happy smile. I'm so happy I was able to help you. Did that manacle hurt to have on for so long? She asked as he shrugged his shoulders. I learned to ignore it after a while, he said before he rubbed his chin in thought while looking over the caved-in entrance. Do you think you'll be able to get us out? Ty Lee asked as he nodded with slight frown. Yeah, but stand back a good bit because I think I'm going to melt the rocks in front of me, he said before white flames flickered on his upper arms. Other side of the wall. So Ty Lee honestly crawled in there, trying to save some trapped guy only to trap herself inside once on the other side? Azula asked as she crossed her arms, watching her soldiers try and take apart the caved-in wall while Mai stood by her side with a bored look. Yeah, I tried to stop her, but you know how she is with stuff like that, Mai said before the troops started to move back, both her and Azula widening their eyes as the rocks in front of heated up to the point they turned to lava. This continued until set of arms burst through and a man walked through, uncaring for the lava that rolled off him like beads of water. Now hand me my bucket, and I'll douse the lava so you can walk through, Ty Lee, a man said before stopping, once noticing them, and merely waved. Ty Lee, I think your friends are here. You know what, I'll just carry you out. The lava is off me and I should have cooled off, he said before walking back through the cooled down tunnel he left behind. Did you see what I just saw? Mai asked, a bit surprised by not only someone melting rock but also being unaffected by lava dripping on them. I did. How about we go and meet this interesting man, Azula said as her tone paired with the way she licked her lips made Mai shiver. As the man walked back through the tunnel, Ty Lee smiled and waved at them as she was carried through in the arms of the mystery man. Hi Mai. Hi Azula. Sorry if I made you worry, but Naruto here helped me out, she said before the man, now identified as Naruto, set her down. Well there, reunited with your friends all. It's nice meeting you all, he said with a slight unsure frown as Ty Lee hugged him again before Azula cleared her throat. Well, thank you for saving our friend. Whatever can we do to repay you? Azula asked with a smirk as Naruto turned to her with a raised brow. I really don't need any thanks for it. I guess since I'm free I could go and maybe find those who left me in there or just travel around since, he said before Azula took a step forward and placed her hand on her chest in what Ty Lee could tell was mock hurt. Are you saying you don't want the thanks of the princess of the Fire Nation? I could take that as an insult if I wanted to, she said as Naruto frowned and rubbed the back of his neck nervously. Look, it's not like that. Dang, I never thought talking with people again would be so difficult. Honestly, I don't need anything as I just want to be free and maybe visit around the world as being trapped in there since being a kid things have bound to have changed, he said as Azula nodded and waved it off. I suppose I could let this slide if you were to tell me how you melted through all those rocks and seemed to be immune from the lava you created, she said while he frowned and shook his head. Sorry, but I really don't want to talk about it. Honestly, I just want to forget about firebending for a while, he said before a torrent of blue flames collided with him, making Ty Lee gasp in shock and worry until an unscathed Naruto emerged from the flames. Was that really necessary? He asked as Azula's smile grew and she chuckled softly. You are immune to fire. I knew I remembered correctly about this temple the second Mai told me about it. You see, I heard rumors around the capital temple, back when I was forced to waste time there, that the monks of this temple had experimented on orphans to try and create a soldier on par with the Avatar, Azula said as Naruto narrowed his eyes. Is that why I was made like this? To help fight some ridiculous war? Naruto asked in a steeled tone, clenching his fists as white flames flickered on them. Of course. The monks said that they had summoned spirits from the spirit realm and done something no one else has been able to do, seal it inside a living host. You are the host of an utterly destructive spirit but were left behind because the stupid monks valued their life before yours. My father will be pleased when I bring you back to him, Azula said as Naruto glared furiously at her while Ty Lee widened her eyes as it all made sense to her. The whiskers, the stomach tattoo, and the immunity to fire as well as the incredible fire bending that didn't require poses. That and the red orb in his stomach all made sense now. I'm sorry you found out about me, Ty Lee. I bet now you wish you hadn't freed me, he said as Ty Lee adamantly shook her head, making him chuckle before turning towards Azula. At least one person doesn't see me as a monster or some tool in a war. Now I figure you won't let me go free, right? He asked while Azula shook her head with a laugh. I'd be a fool to let something as powerful as you go free. We can do this peacefully or with force, she said as he narrowed his eyes. I'd like to see you try. I've been trapped long enough, I'm not leaving one set of chains to go into another, he said as he held his hands back, pointing the palms behind him and away from Azula. Azula rose her brow in confusion, wondering what he was planning with his hands pointed away from her before her eyes widened once he almost disappeared and a burst of flames hit the wall he stood in front of seconds ago. The princess had no time to react as a powerful kick struck her in the stomach before sending her skidding back across the clearing. It took her a minute to regain her breath from the force of the kick, but once she looked up she felt something amazing. The utterly fearsome sight of Naruto walking towards her made her want the man even more as his arms and torso were lit up in white flames that she could feel their heat from there. Amazing. Those flames are hotter than mine, and you have no stance to conjure your flames, Azula said as she shot a wall of flames across the width of the opening in front of the cave entrance for a diversion only for him to burst through it and launch his own flames at her. Even as she rolled to the left to dodge the flames, she could feel the heat and flames flickering at her skin and clothes. I don't want to hurt you, Azula, honestly. I just want to be free to do with my life as I want, he said as he didn't want to hurt the friend of the girl that had actually found a way to save him. Your flames are amazing. You are amazing! Forget my father. Join me and I will ensure you are treated like royalty. You can have anything you want, she said as she smiled up at him. She was willing to do whatever was needed to ensure this man didn't escape her even if it meant minor treason. Please Naruto, accept Azula's offer. Ty Lee yelled as he turned to see her and Mai standing by the side, Ty Lee looking worried as Mai looked indifferent. You can travel with us around the world. I can show you the circus. Just please stop fighting, Ty Lee begged with tears in her eyes as she hated to see her best friend fight against her new friend she had just saved. Naruto frowned as a part of him didn't trust Azula. Something in her eyes just screamed dangerous, but another part didn't want to hurt Ty Lee by saying no. Will you really take me around the world? He asked as he looked to both Ty Lee and Azula. Yes, I'll give you the world if that's what it takes to have you by my side, Azula said while Ty Lee nodded along. We are going on some trip soon. Please just come with us and stop fighting. You won't be chained up or imprisoned. I promise, Ty Lee said before Naruto sighed and extinguished his flames from his arms. Fine, whatever, but I am not some soldier and I don't take orders, he said as Azula nodded and got up from the ground. Whatever you want I will be sure to provide. I am pleasured to have you traveling with us, Azula said, slightly licking her lips as she held her hand out towards him. Whatever, just don't make me regret it, he growled out as he shook her hand, already regretting it from the look on Azula's face and eyes. But at least Ty Lee seemed happy, and that somewhat made it worth it. She did save him, so he figured the most he could do was travel with her and see the world. She seemed like a nice girl and might make this trip less annoying than he felt it would be. Naruto, despite everything that happened on the island, couldn't help but smile as the boat they were on drove on through the ocean. For the first time in his life he was free from the damn temple he had been trapped in since as far back as he could remember. While he would have rather been traveling alone with everything that happened between him and Azula, he was just glad he wasn't having to be on the run from the Fire Nation. Plus, traveling with Ty Lee wasn't so bad since he did feel that he owed the girl that had went out of her way to save him, and as long as Azula didn't try and control him, or try anything, then it wasn't so bad. And so far she hadn't tried anything. If anything, she was trying to make him feel welcomed on the boat, from giving him a room on her ship to ordering the crew of her ship to treat him like Tylee and Mai, who were both on high standing due to their friendship with Azula. All in all, she seemed to almost try to make up for attacking him, and had done almost a 180 in terms of personality. Though the look in her eyes at times still worried him a bit. Enjoying the view? A bubbly voice asked as he turned and smiled softly towards Ty Lee. For the most part his time on the ship was spent with Ty Lee. They either spent time playing Pai Sho, doing yoga as being chained up didn't do his muscles any help, or just talking as they relaxed on the deck of the ship under the sun. He occasionally talked to Mai, but he quickly found out she was the kind of girl to just silently sulk and occasionally talk to Azula. He did spend time with Azula, but with her position as princess she did have to deal with the tasks that came along with it. More or less he often helped her with her fire bending, since now that he could move about he often liked summoning his flames to stretch, and she was happy to spar against him, though he was always careful not to get serious and accidentally hurt Azula. Yeah, it's already much better than what I had to look at inside the temple. It feels really nice to breathe in fresh air and feel a breeze on my skin, he said, as since getting on the boat he had been able to change out of the rags he had been stuck in, something else which Azula had helped him with. He now had a pair of baggy dark red pants with a black cloth belt and a sleeveless black shirt to wear instead of what he had before. The shirt also had a hood for him to pull up to hide his blonde hair, as apparently it was a full-on rarity throughout all nations. Though even with his new outfit he made sure to keep his wooden sandals, as they just felt natural to him. So where are we going now? Naruto asked as Ty Lee smiled and scooted closer to him. Omashu. Mai's parents are the governors there, and Azula wants to check up on them since Omashu is the newest conquest of the Fire Nation, Ty Lee said as Naruto frowned and rested his elbows on the railing on the side of the boat. I still am not fond of this whole war situation, and I don't plan to help in it, so hopefully nothing requires me to, he said with a sigh as Ty Lee nodded with a frown. She understood, as best as she could, how he must feel about the war since he was put into his situation because the Fire Nation wanted something to combat the Avatar. It should be fine, as we are just checking up on Omashu, Ty Lee said as she rubbed his back before they both flinched a bit as bolts of lightning fired off to their left and thunder booming behind it. Naruto let out a sigh as Azula had been practicing her fire bending for nearly the whole boat ride. Though, as he and Ty Lee, who was following him, walked towards Azula, He found himself curious about how she could fire off bolts of lightning. "Hey Azula," he said, instantly getting her attention as she turned to him. "What was that a second ago?" he asked as Azula smirked, inwardly proud that her display of lightning generation had attracted his attention. "That would be the Princess Lightning Generation," a woman said before she and another identical-looking old woman appeared at Azula's sides. "It is understandable that you have never seen it, as it is a rare skill," the other woman said before Azula frowned and sent a slight glare at them, silently telling them to leave. "It is the highest form of fire bending that few can master. I can show you how if you want, since I am quite curious as to how you creating lightning would go, since fire doesn't require any stances for you," Azula said as she crossed her arms with a smile and walked closer to him. "Oh! Yeah, if you can do Azula's cool lightning thing, that would be amazing," Ty Lee said as she bounced excitedly beside him. "Well, how do you do it?" Naruto asked as he did find himself interested in all of this. If lightning was a branch of fire, then he might possibly be able to use it given his control over fire. "Well, Naruto, lightning is indeed fire, but to generate it at first you need not only peace of mind but to be able to separate the yin and yang, the positive and negative energies around you. You separate them before they collide back together, as they are attracted to each other again, and when they become whole again it creates lightning," Azula said as she demonstrated the generation of lightning with her bending. "Lightning is deadly, so the few who can generate are told not to control it but to guide it where we want and then release," she said before she fired another bolt into the air. "I'm not sure how it would go for you since your fire is so natural," Azula said as she looked him over before smiling. "How do you make your fire anyways? I mean, we know about the spirit thingy, but is it maybe like Azula's bending?" Ty Lee asked as she was also curious about it. "Well, ever since the spirit was forced into me, it's been natural to me, like breathing. I just focus my energy to where I want it, and my fire appears," he said as he opened his hands and easily summoned 2 orbs of his white-hot flames before dispelling them. "Well, maybe lightning will come just as naturally," Ty Lee said encouragingly while he frowned but shrugged his shoulders and walking to the front of the boat, honestly curious if he could do it. "Just stay back a bit. First time I summoned my fire it kind of enveloped me entirely, so I don't quite know what to expect with lightning," he warned as he looked over his shoulder to see Ty Lee and the 2 older women take a few steps back while Azula stayed put where she was. Naruto closed his eyes as he held his hands out in front of him towards the ocean. Negative and positive energies. Separate, and then let them collide and become whole, he thought as he took several calming breaths, trying to control the flow of energy he could feel buzzing through his arms. He continued before frowning as lightning arced and gathered on his arms, and he felt a sharp pain in his stomach before an explosion rang out. It all happened too fast for him to see as the next second he groaned and tried to sit up to find himself at the other end of the deck of the ship with smoke rolling off his arms. As he looked around he noticed a worried Ty Lee and Azula rushing towards him. "Oh, that really stung," he groaned out as he saw leftover sparks continue to arc off his arms while his stomach seemed to settle down before Ty Lee and Azula helped him sit up. "Are you okay, Naruto? What happened?" Ty Lee asked worriedly as Azula snapped her fingers. "You soldier! Get us a healer immediately!" Azula yelled as a nearby soldier quickly nodded before running down below deck. "Relax, I'm fine," he said, calming them down while his arms stopped sparking. "I think my spirit just kind of screwed me over with that attempt. Guess it won't let me use lightning. Either that or I have to make peace with it more," he said as he waved off the medic that had rushed over to them in almost breakneck speed. He did though accept Azula and Ty Lee's hands to help him up before popping the kinks out of his spine from the sudden flight backwards. "Wait, you have spoken to the spirit inside of you?" Azula asked before he shrugged his shoulders. "Kind of bits and pieces, but I think the chain I was bound in kept me from it fully talking to it. Though I can't really do that on this moving boat as I've tried, but it's disorienting," he said as he had never been on a boat before, so he was still getting what Mai had called, while teasing him, his sea legs. "I guess you can try when we get to Omashu?" Ty Lee said a bit unsure before he nodded, and as Azula walked off to talk with the captain of the ship that had come down from the cabin. "Well, that won't be long as we will be docking in the small inlet near Omashu before making our way over to the actual city. Do pack your things as we will be leaving this boat and be traveling across land from here on out," she said as Naruto nodded and headed off to his appointed room, which was oddly across from Azula's. As he packed he was thankful that he really only had one bag to hold all of his things, which consisted of a few other pieces of clothes, the book from the temple that Ty Lee had found, his pie show board, as well as some other various things that he had decided to hold onto from the temple. It didn't take him long to pack all of it up inside his duffel bag before he heard a knock at his door. Come in, he said as the door opened to show Azula smiling at him before she entered and closed the door behind her. I just came to tell you we are about to dock and invite you to join me in my palanquin, as I figured you'd still be a bit wobbly once off the boat, she said with a smile that made him suspect she had some other reason to invite him to ride along with her. Are you sure? I thought those were only suited for one person, he said as she waved it off. Nonsense. While there is no actual seat for you, there is enough space in front of me for you to sit. Plus it'll help mend things between us, she said as she put her hand on her chest and took a step closer to him. I know things didn't begin too well for us, and I am sorry for how I acted. I do hope you'll consider me a friend like you have, Tylee, she said as she put her other hand on his chest, making him take a step back on instinct only to back into the frame of his bed. I guess it was kind of an odd situation with me melting through rocks and having the lava roll off me harmlessly. We can start over if you want, as long as you keep in mind what I said earlier, he said, referencing how he told her he wasn't going to be a soldier of hers and he wasn't going to be ordered around. Of course, I'm glad we are finally past it. I will leave you to your packing while we wait for you up on the deck, Azula said as she smiled and took a step back before turning on her heel and continuing out of his room. He frowned a bit as something about her smile felt off, but before he could think more about it, Tylee sneaked out from behind his door frame with wide eyes. Tylee? Are you okay? He asked as the bubbly girl nodded before shaking off her apparent shock. I didn't mean to eavesdrop since I was just picking up something I almost forgot on the boat. But I'm just surprised to hear Azula apologize to someone, Tylee said as he rose an eyebrow and slung his back over his shoulder. Really? Guess that shows she was serious about it, he said, still being a bit unsure before Tylee nodded adamantly. Yeah. I mean, I've known her since we were kids, but she has never apologized to anyone. I'm really glad you two are getting along, Tylee said with a smile before she quickly hugged his arm, making Naruto blush as he felt her breasts press into his arm. He might have been excluded from the world for a good chunk of years, but before everything the monks were wise enough to give him the talk which was making his current situation somewhat awkward for him. We should hurry. Don't want to keep Azula waiting, he said as he nervously but gently pulled his arm out of Tylee's grasp before hurry up to the deck with a somewhat confused Tylee following behind him. About time you two got up here. Come on, I want to get this over with as soon as possible, as I really find this place dreadful, Mai said as Naruto nodded, while two guards bowed to him and motioned towards the palanquin where Azula was waiting with a calm smile. He was a bit off-put by the bows as he went up the steps alongside the palanquin. Sorry, I just had to make sure I got everything, he said as he nervously sat down in front of Azula's raised seat, a bit unsure where to face before deciding to face ahead of them. Oh, don't worry, the ship is going to drop everything left behind off in our hidden base near the city of Gaoling, where the main mode of transportation for us will be waiting. Once we leave Omashu, we will make our way on some mongoose lizards I had readied for us ahead of time, Azula said as Naruto chuckled a bit. You really thought ahead for everything, haven't you, he said before looking back at Azula, who was smiling at him. Of course, as I want to finish my mission of tracking down my brother and uncle as soon as possible so I can hold true to my word of showing you the world, Azula said as the palanquin was lifted up with Tylee and Mai following at their sides. As the city of Omashu came into view, he couldn't help but frown a bit at the sight of the metal-clad city before shaking it off as the palanquin continued towards it and across the bridge that stretched out to connect to the cliffside city. Wow, the Fire Nation really did a number on here, he said as he noticed plumes of smoke from the factories as well as all the metal riveted around them. Well, this is just an early version of how we plan to help the city. The metal ensures that the earthbenders won't be able to weaken the integrity of the city, Azula said as Naruto couldn't help but feel there was something off with the idea. Although he didn't get time to ask her more as the governor of the city and his wife greeted them the second they entered the city. Princess Azula, it is an honor to have you visiting a man who Naruto figured to be the governor said before Azula stood up and tapped his shoulder and motioned for him to follow. Yes, I do hope you set things up for our stay, Azula said as she and Naruto stepped off her palanquin. Yes, of course. Your rooms were set up and your bodyguard's room is next to yours like requested, he said as Naruto frowned before realizing Azula lied to keep him hidden, as it would be odd to invite a random man along. I also got your report of what happened yesterday, and we will speak of it after we leave our things in the rooms, Azula said as the man nodded and lowered his head as they walked up the steps towards the mansion. What exactly happened? Naruto asked as Mai sighed. My father apparently let all the Earth Nation's citizens living here leave under the thoughts of an imaginary disease called pentapox, and my brother was taken by the resistance, as well, Mai droned with a tired sigh. Plus he has offered up a trade for him, but we'll take care of it. For now let's put our things away, Azula said before looking over her shoulder. Oh, and I hope you don't mind about the bodyguard title, she said as he waved it off. I figured it's to keep me hidden, so I'm fine with it, he said as they entered the mansion, and were led by a maid towards their rooms. Though I am curious why my room is right next to yours again, he said before Azula chuckled. To put on the airs of you being my actual bodyguard. Normally bodyguards stay in the room of the person they are guarding and don't sleep, but I figured that would be a bit much, she said with a smile that made him think for a second that she meant it would only be a bit much for him before she motioned to his room. Well, why don't you drop off your stuff and then we can go to the meeting with Mai's father, Azula said as she leaned against the wall, showing she was willing to wait outside for him before he went in. He didn't want to keep her waiting, so he quickly threw his bag on the bed before leaving and following her to room where the others were waiting. Azula motioned him to follow her before he got the idea and stood beside her as she sat down in the large seat in the front of the room with Mai, Ty Lee, and Mai's parents sitting on the floor. He was a bit off-put by having to stand up here, but then again he doubted this would last long enough to be a bother. I hope the rooms are to your liking, Princess Azula, as you have arrived in Omashu at a difficult time. At noon we are making a trade with the resistance to get Tom Tom back at the building site of your father's statue, the governor said as Azula frowned and crossed her legs. Yes, it is sad to hear about your son, but what did you expect by letting all the citizens leave? She asked as she stood up, showing that he was right and guessing this wouldn't be long. My father trusted you with this city, and you are making a mess of things, she added as the man bowed down to her. Forgive me, princess, he said as Azula walked forward and motioned for Ty Lee and Mai to stand up as Naruto followed her. You stay here, Mai will handle the hostage trade so you can't mess anything up. And there is no Omashu. I am renaming it in honor of my father, the city of New Ozai, Azula said before they all left the room. Do you want me to come along or something? Naruto asked, a bit unsure of his role in all of this before Azula nodded. If you are okay with it, as having you along would ensure Mai's brother's safety, since if you don't want to fight you can at least ensure he gets away to safety, Azula said as Naruto nodded along, agreeing with her plan. That works, but who exactly are we trading for her brother? Do we have a resistance member or something? He asked, as it did only make sense since it was a trade. They want the former king of Omashu, King Bumi, who surrendered the moment the Fire Nation arrived at Omashu's border, Mai said as her father had already filled her in on everything while Naruto's eyes widened slightly. Wait, he just surrendered? Like before any fighting even began? He asked as Azula nodded while they started their way up towards the meeting point. Yeah, he gave up the second our forces arrived. The man gave up his whole city without even fighting. He's supposed to be a very powerful earthbender, Azula said before she narrowed her eyes and let Mai lead ahead. Naruto was a bit confused until he followed Azula's eyes and saw 3 kids already waiting for them across on the other side of the wooden platform with a small baby in the arms of the tan-skinned boy of the group. They walked a bit more before stopping, and a metal cage was lowered down by the construction crane nearby to reveal an old man smiling at them. Hi everybody. The old man, who he figured to be Bumi, said with a smile as the crane lowered him down as far as it could go. You brought my brother? Mai asked as the boy in orange and yellow in the center of the 3 across from them nodded. He's here. We're ready to trade, the boy said before Azula took a slight step forward and looked over at Mai. I'm sorry, but a thought just occurred to me. Do you mind? Azula asked, making Naruto wonder what she had planned with Mai's brother on the line. Of course not, Princess Azula, Mai said as she seemingly trusted her friend before stepping back. Your father is having us trade a 2-year-old for a king, a powerful earth-bending king? She asked as Bumi nodded. It just doesn't seem like a fair trade, does it? She added before Mai nodded. You're right, Mai said as she walked forward and raised her hand up. The deal's off, she said before snapping her fingers, causing Bumi to be lifted up by the crane. See you all later, Bumi said with a chuckle before the orange-clad boy frowned and ran towards them, leaving behind a sizable dust trail behind him. Azula, though, was quick to react as she ran towards the boy and fired a blast of her blue fire at him, only for the boy to leap over it, jump off the scaffolding around the statue, and open up a glider of sorts to fly up in an attempt to catch Bumi. The Avatar, my lucky day, Azula said as she quickly chased after the orange-clad boy as he flew upwards. Come on, Ty Lee. We're getting my brother back, Mai said as she looked towards Naruto, only for him to sigh and pulled down his hood so he could see better. Fine, but it is only to help get your brother back. I'm not actually going to hurt or actually fight them, he said as Mai seemingly accepted it and ran forward. We have to get the baby out of here, the tan-skinned girl said as the boy started blowing a whistle in his hand. Way ahead of you, the boy said as Naruto held his hands at his sides, his palms facing behind him before summoning a blast of fire to close the distance between him and the boy. "Sorry to do this, but I'll be taking him back," Naruto said as he surprised the boy before tripping the boy with a kick to his shins, only strong enough to trip him. Though before the boy could fully fall to the ground, he grabbed Tom by the back of his shirt and pulled him away from the tanned boy before sending a jet of fire from his foot to send him flying back. He continued to fly back to avoid a whips of water. The tan-skinned girl started to waterbend at him, which allowed the tan boy to escape down the ladder nearby. "Whoa, easy there, I don't want to fight. I just wanted to get the kid back," Naruto said before launching several defensive blasts of fire in an attempt to block the water the girl kept trying to hit him with. He though was making sure not to go too overboard with his flames, using just enough to defend against the water. It seemed though he didn't have to defend for long, as Ty Lee had seemingly gone under and around to behind the girl and proceeded to jab her fingers into various spots on the girl that seemed to render her water bending useless. As he came to a skidding stop behind Mai and Ty Lee, he frowned as he saw the apparent Avatar and Azula go riding down the slopes that ran through Omashu, the Avatar on the cage of Bumi and Azula on a stone crate. "I have Tom, we can leave now," he said as Mai frowned and drew a knife that split to a three-pronged form with the press of a button. "Let's see you try and fight us and stop us without your bending," Mai yelled before she yelped in pain as a boomerang knocked the knife out of her hand. "I seem to manage," the tan boy yelled as he flew a large bison down onto the wood platform before the beast slammed its tail back, intent of blowing them away. Naruto clenched his teeth as he held Tom in one arm and turned so his back was facing the bison before he kicked forward his foot in an attempt to counteract the force of the gust trying to send him flying off the platform. Hoping this would work, he quickly grabbed and latched his hand onto Ty Lee's wrist before slinging her over his leg towards Mai. Thankfully his friend got the idea and grabbed Mai's ankle just before she got too far away and held on as he continued to shoot flames from his foot to keep them all from flying. As the gust ended, he groaned and fell backwards, letting go of Ty Lee and making sure Tom was secure. He didn't even care that the bison was flying away, as he was more tired of having to save them so awkwardly with one foot. "I am never doing that again. Are you two okay? I didn't burn any of you, did I?" he asked as he lifted his head up to check on them. He chuckled as he saw Mai sprawled on her back as Ty Lee was planted stomach down on the ground, her butt somewhat sticking up in the air, causing him to quickly look away with a blush. "Yeah, perfect," Mai groaned out with a sigh as Ty Lee chuckled and sat up. "That was amazing," Ty Lee said as she turned around to face him with a smile. "You saved us all from flying off here, and you even kept Tom safe," Ty Lee said before gasping and looking towards the slope Azula had rode down on. "Azula? Is she okay?" Ty Lee asked as she tried to peer down it but couldn't see anything besides the white blur of what she figured to be the sky bison. "You can catch up to her if you jet down the slope, can't you?" Ty Lee asked as he sighed and handed Tom to Mai. "Can't she handle herself?" "I really don't want to fight," he said as Ty Lee frowned. "Well, you don't have to fight, but she might need help getting back up here or something. Can you maybe help her with that?" Ty Lee asked, pulling out a powerful pout that made him flinch before he conceded to it with a groan and a nod. "Fine, but I am only going to help her get back up here. Nothing else," he said before he slammed his foot down on an extended board, breaking it off to use it as his ride down the slope. "I'll meet you back at the house," he said as he leapt onto the slope, planting his feet on the board before using his free hand to create a jet of fire to propel himself down the slope. He had to use some of his flames to clear debris off the slope before he came to a skidding stop as he finally could see Azula as she tried to walk up the slope. He figured she was unable to leap down as the height they were at would end with her getting injured. "Need a ride?" he asked as he quickly picked up the board and came to a skidding stop a few feet in front of her. "Ty Lee figured you'd need a ride back up, so she sent me, and it's better than waiting for you to walk up or until you found a roof you could safely drop down onto," he added while Azula smiled up at him. "Thank you, Naruto. This is very sweet of you," Azula said with a smirk as she continued walking up towards him before he helped her up the incline and set the board back down. "You get in the front so I can use my fire to send us up without worrying about burning you," he said as he kept his foot planted on the board to keep it stable for her. He though missed the smile on Azula's face as she stepped onto the board. "You should hold on to me so I don't fall over or anything," Azula said as he readied his hand behind him before he suddenly and darkly blushed as Azula grabbed his free arm and wrapped it around her waist. What made it really hard for him was how Azula scooted back until her back was up against his chest with a smile aimed up at him. She went even further to show that she wasn't affected by the closeness, as she shifted her rear against him, which almost made him fall, his arm around Azula keeping him from actually falling. Well? Are we going to get going? Azula asked as if her butt pressed against him was absolutely normal. He could only cough into his hand awkwardly as he nodded and moved his remaining foot onto the board, only allowing it to slide back for a second before he used his flames to propel them up the slope. The second they started to pick up speed, he found himself cursing having Azula up front even more, as with the angle of the slope and everything he found her pressed up against him even more. Even speed wasn't helping things, as it only made her push back against him more. Thankfully it did help him get back up to the scaffolding quicker, allowing him to help Azula off the slope and away from being pressed against him. Your fire continues to amaze me. So strong, and yet its use has yet to tire you out, Azula said as she walked towards him with a smile as he backed away a bit, still a bit out of it from having her pressed up against him. Well, we shouldn't keep the others waiting. We better go back to the governor's house, he said hurriedly as he quickly walked past her, missing the smile she had on her face before she started to follow him back. Their time in Omashu, like Azula had said when they first arrived, wasn't going to last that long. After Tom was safe back at his home, and both he and Azula had made it back, Azula decided they were only sticking around Omashu for an extra day to get things set up, since due to the Avatar showing up some things had to be changed slightly. He didn't mind staying an extra day though, as, while Azula was kept busy contacting various people via Messenger Hawk, it allowed him to meditate peacefully in the garden courtyard of Mai's parents' house. Ty Lee, if you want to join me, just ask, as trying to do this with someone staring out behind the bushes is a bit difficult, he said, opening one eye to see his bubbly friend raise up from behind the bush with an embarrassed blush on her face. Sorry, I just wasn't sure if being too close would throw off your concentration, Ty Lee said as she rubbed the back of her neck before he chuckled and motioned for her to come over. It's okay, you can sit with me. In fact, I'd feel safer with someone nearby, Naruto said as Ty Lee smiled and quickly moved over, sitting down on the patch of grass across from him. What are you doing that you want to feel safer about? Ty Lee asked, since from what she had seen of Naruto so far he wasn't one to really worry much. Well, I'm going to try and talk with my spirit. I mainly want to feel safe due to their anger, and how it might be nice to be around someone that might be able to snap me out of my trance if anything looks weird, Naruto said before Ty Lee nodded, understanding her role and happy that he seemed to trust her enough to ask her to do so. I'll do my best to watch over you. I hope things go well with your spirit, Ty Lee said as she watched Naruto close his eyes and take several deep and slow breaths while moving his hands onto his lap. I hope so too, Naruto said as he felt his consciousness slip back into his mind, where he could feel his spirit waiting for him. Mindscape. His mindscape thankfully looked the same as ever. It was a simple scene of a massive forest clearing with an insanely large tree that stretched up past the clouds of the golden sky, with a circle of rope around it that was tied to various large rock spikes that acted as the posts for the rope fence. It was easy to see, even from how far back in the clearing he was, that creature was waiting for him under the tree as it lay there resting. It's about time you came to visit again, especially after finally getting free, the spirit said, its deep voice making it easy to hear as Naruto walked up to the rope fence. Well, I had to readjust to being free, and it was hard to get here while on a boat. And talking about my time on the boat, why did you make the lightning explode on me? Naruto asked as the creature growled and stood up from where it laid, revealing its form. The spirit, which demanded to be called QB as he apparently hadn't earned his real name, was a massive creature called a fox with dark orange fur and 9 large tails billowing behind it. Its upper body was structured like that of a human, with it even having opposable thumbs on its front limbs. Naruto was used to its glare as its red eye, which was larger than he was tall, looked at him. I refuse to let you learn a technique from that woman. She is the daughter of the man that is behind the order that bound us together. I should restrict you from using my fire as you are traveling with her. The QB roared as Naruto glared back up at it. Hey! It was either travel with or be hunted by. Also she, so far, has made up for attacking me in the beginning. Because of her our freedom isn't known to anyone. Naruto yelled back, since as much as the creature could easily kill him, he knew he couldn't, because if Naruto died, then so did it. Look, I know you don't like the Fire Nation or the Fire Lord, and neither do I, but Azula isn't acting as either. She has kept me safe from the eyes of them. I'm not saying for you to instantly trust her, as I too am a bit on the fence still, but at least trust her enough to let her teach me something that might save me, Naruto finished, all while he had been staring QB in its eye. The silence after was a bit tense as Naruto half expected QB to eject him from the mindscape with a roar, something that had happened before, only for him to grunt and stand up. Fine, whatever. But, QB said as it waved its hand dismissively before pointing its clawed finger at him with a glare. I will be watching closely as I don't trust that woman at all, the QB said as Naruto figured that was better than nothing when it came to the fox. Hell, it still didn't trust Naruto all the way. Only enough to let it wield its fire and occasionally use a form he wasn't too fond of due to how it let his emotions run haywire, and gave him the feeling he wasn't the one in full control. Now get out of here. That princess and bubbly girl are waiting for you out there, QB said as Naruto nodded. I guess we'll talk more later? Naruto said before the QB waved him off. If I need to say anything I'll do it through our seal, as bringing you in here is annoying, the QB said before the world started to dissolve around him, kicking him back out into the real world. Real world. He groaned as he opened his eyes, the transition between mindscape and the real world still as disorienting as ever before he noticed a still smiling Ty Lee sitting beside him with a curious Azula next to her. So how were things with your spirit? Azula asked as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Better than usual, a lot less yelling than normal. I hope I didn't twitch weirdly or anything while in there, he said, directing the second part towards Ty Lee, who waved it off. Nothing like that, though your whiskers got darker a bit. Azula came over halfway through to tell us we are ready to go, Ty Lee said as Azula nodded with a smirk. Our mongoose lizards are ready to depart for jailing, where we will head straight to our base to pick up our Rio ride for travel, Azula said as she stood up, him and Ty Lee following suit, while he popped his sore joints. Also, when we arrive you might have to wait things out in jailing if you wish to stay hidden, Azula warned as he nodded with a smile. Thanks, that warning helps. If anything, I'll look around the town, and if things take too long I can probably book a room at an inn or something. Though I need money, he said as living trapped in a temple for so long made him forget that money was needed in the world. Don't worry, I will make sure you have everything needed when we reach jailing. I already had your things packed, with discretion of course, so we are ready to go now if that is okay with you, Azula said with a smile as he nodded. Sure, I'm looking forward to seeing an actual Earth Kingdom town, Naruto said as Omashu was not really part of the Earth Kingdom anymore. It didn't take long for them to reach their rides at the front of Mai's parents' house to see Mai already waiting for them, looking bored as always as she leaned against one of the mongoose lizards. About time you all show up. I want to get out this bore of a town as soon as possible, Mai groaned out as she crossed her arms, clearly annoyed. Sorry, I had to do some things and Ty Lee had to help me, Naruto said as he sent a thankful smile over to Ty Lee, who smiled back, a light blush before Mai groaned louder. Enough flirting. Let's go already, Mai said impatiently as she leapt up on her lizard while Naruto slightly glared at her, and Ty Lee's blush went atomic. She's right, we do need to go, Azula said as she coughed into her hand to get the others' attention, and hopefully move things away from the flirting topic. The base in jailing is expecting us, so it is best we hurry, especially since because due to how we are using mongoose lizards we will have to take a longer path around the nearby swamp, Azula said as it was easier to go around rather than go into unfamiliar territory. Got it. And if it takes longer than we thought, and we do have to camp, I guess I'll make myself into a fire, Naruto joked with a chuckle as he hopped onto his lizard and the others followed suit before they all whipped the reins to get their lizards to take off. The lizards though were faster than he had expected, having never rode one before, and they were easily able to reach jailing by the time the sun had just reached the halfway point through its journey across the sky. The Fire Nation's secret base was apparently situated in the largest mountain that was also furthest from jailing. The base is through that cavern and this is where we part for now, Azula said as they all got off their lizards. I prepared ahead for you to have what you would need to go down to the city. When it is time though for us to leave, Ty Lee will come down and find you as she draws the least attention, Azula added as a soldier exited the cavern, seemingly having been waiting for them, with a small bag of money. Naruto though was more captivated by the sight they had at the near top of the mountain and the city below. I promise you amazing sights, Azula said as she moved next to him, smiling over at him as she motioned to the scene in front of them. Think of this as the first of many that I will show you on our trip, and this is even while we are still busy, she said before he nodded and accepted the bag of money from the soldier. That should be enough for an inn, food, and anything else you may want or need. I recommend an inn at the upper district as it will be easier for Ty Lee to find you there, Azula said as Naruto nodded and picked up his bag from the mongoose lizard's saddle. I guess I'll see you all when you all are done here, he said as Mai had already started to walk into the cavern. Ty Lee though surprised him a bit with a hug, making him blush a bit as he cursed his inexperience with women, though he did at least hug her back. Have fun sightseeing. Oh, and get me a souvenir please, Tylee said as she pulled away with a happy smile that made him chuckle and nod. Sure, I'll get one for you all. See you guys later, and don't worry about rushing or anything for me, Azula, as I can wait rather than things going wrong because you want to get out of here, Naruto said as Azula smiled and nodded. And you enjoy jailing, Azula said as she walked into the cavern with Ty Lee, allowing Naruto to make his way down the path towards the city. Once at the city, Naruto was excited as he saw people walking around as this was his first real town since Ember Island. He was a bit worried about his choice of outfits since it was red and black, but people didn't seem to care or notice, especially once they looked in his eyes, probably to see if they were the usual Fire Nation amber, though it did make him realize that a change of outfit, at least the color of it, was needed. Thankfully, though, finding an Earth Kingdom version of his outfit was easy considering it was just a pair of pants and a hooded vest. After finding and changing into his green hooded vest and light brown pants, he then found a nearby and where Azula had mentioned. He was easily able to rent a nice size room, having more than enough as apparently Azula had filled the bag with solely gold pieces. Once the room was taken care of and his bag dropped off, he then could focus on getting other things he wanted or needed. Time ended up going faster than he thought as the sun had started to set by the time he even noticed. Hey you like earth bending? A voice asked as Naruto turned to see who it was, only to see a man hiding in the alley and wearing a dark cloak. How about a ticket to the Earth Rumble? It's an event full of the greatest earthbenders all fighting for the title of greatest. A ticket is only 1 gold piece, the man said as he held out his hand with a large ticket in between his fingers. Naruto smirked as he handed the man a gold piece and took the ticket from his hand. Pleasure doing business, the directions are on the back, the man said before he dropped down into an earthbent exit that closed up after him. He knew he should have ignored the man and went back to his rooms with the purchases that he had made, which consisted of a new larger dark green duffel bag that held gifts for his 3 traveling partners as well as other little things he saw that he figured might be useful. But he was curious. This was the first time he could watch some earthbenders, a luxury he never had before on Ember Island. Plus Azula did say it might take a day or 2 before Tylee came to find him. Plus he was a tourist, so he couldn't not visit the local attractions. The entrance to the arena wasn't too difficult to find as the map was rather descriptive, and the 2 earthbenders acting as guards to the entrance helped him in finding it. The arena itself was rather large with several rows of earthen seats descending downwards from the actual arena, which was a raised rectangular plateau in the center of the massive room. He chose one of the front row seats, which were all empty, just as the event began, with the host crashing down into the center of the arena and sending boulders flying out from the ground as fireworks of sorts. Welcome to Earth Rumble. I am your host Xian Fu. The rules of these matches are simple. Just knock the other guy out of the ring and you win. Xian Fu yelled before he leapt back up to the podium with the help of earth bending just as the match started. The matches, while clearly having the winner decided beforehand, were fun to watch as the earth bending was at least decently serious. One by one he watched as earthbenders fought against one another with powerful moves that shook the room and tore up the arena. All in all, he was definitely enjoying the show that was for sure worth the money. Now for our final match. The moment you have all been waiting for. Our main fighter of the day, the Hippo, versus our champion, the Blind Bandit. Xian Fu yelled as the spotlight moved from him to the Blind Bandit, who turned out to be a girl. The girl was easily around his age or so and a bit shorter than him. She had black hair with bangs falling over her eyes with a green hair band that he figured was used to tuck her hair into the neat style she wore. Her baggy outfit of a tan vest and green long-sleeve shirt and pants did well to cover her figure, so it was hard to see much, most likely having a low B cup at most from what he could discern, although it was difficult, and going along with her being an earthbender she wore no shoes. The main thing that caught his attention were her eyes. Her title as Blind Bandit was definitely true, as the murky and cloudy white eyes proved it. Her match, as the bell rang, was fast but incredibly interesting as she didn't attack first. She waited, unmoving and only taunting the Hippo, before the man attacked, and even when she did attack she completely avoided his attack and struck the next second when he was vulnerable, sending him flying from the ring. Naruto was amazed as her precision and power were astonishing for someone her age and size. He didn't doubt someone blind could fight, but something told him almost that her blindness was something that made her stronger. As we like to make things more interesting every match, I will offer up this sack of gold pieces to anyone, bender or not, who can defeat the Blind Bandit. Xian Fu yelled as Naruto's hand immediately went up. I'll face her if you'll hold my bag, Naruto yelled as he stood up to let Xianfu see him. Well, come on into the ring then, Xianfu said as he earthbent a bridge from the stands to the ring that allowed Naruto to walk across. Brave young man. Before the match begins, are you a bender or not? Xianfu asked as he accepted Naruto's bag that he quickly handed to one of the assistants that had taken the belt and cape from the blind bandit. I'm a non-bender, but I'm pretty agile and fast, Naruto said as Xianfu looked at him like he was an idiot, but he was fine since he had to pose as a non-bender rather than out himself as a firebender. Are you sure you wish to face off against her? Xianfu asked in a whisper as Naruto nodded with a flat look, making the host shrug his shoulders and earthbend himself back up to the podium. Oh, a non-bender wanting fight? You must be into getting beaten or be really greedy, the bandit said as Naruto shrugged his shoulders and cracked his neck. Money doesn't really matter to me. Mainly I wanted to see what you've got. I mean, a blind earthbender is amazing, like a badger mole, and from what I watched you are definitely a powerful earthbender, Naruto said as the bandit frowned in confusion. Let the match begin. Xianfu yelled, stopping the bandit from saying what she was about to say, and she went into her earth-bending stance. Naruto smirked, a bit excited as he waited for her to move and saw the impatient look on her face. What, you two scared? She taunted as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Nope, just waiting for you to make the first move. I mean, you are the bender between the two of us, he said as she blushed a bit, probably from forgetting he was a non-bender. A second later, though, she made up for it by sending a pillar of earth up from directly under him in an attempt to send him flying. He though reacted fast as he reached down and grabbed the top of the pillar to keep himself from fully flying off. Though due to the force of the pillar's ascent his legs came off the pillar, and he found himself doing a handstand that he quickly pushed off of and went into the sky on his own accord. As he flew towards over her, he stealthily used his firebending to thin the air around him and allow him to right himself so he could land on his feet. The bandit though was quick to react the second his feet touched the ground as she turned towards him with a smirk. My, aren't we quick to react? You're the first non-bender not to be sent out of the ring after my first move. Congrats on that, but you won't survive in the ring much longer, the bandit said as she earth-bent 3 columns, 1 in front of him and 2 from each of his sides. He quickly fell to his knees to avoid being pinned before reaching up, grabbing one of the columns, and pulled himself on top of it just in time to avoid another column that had come from behind in an attempt to send him flying again. Quickly he realized he couldn't sit still with her, as he leapt off the column he sat on and flew towards her. He wasn't planning on winning, but he could at least get some exercise out of it. You really are better than I thought. I mean, I already knew you were great, but honestly this is insane even for me, Naruto said as he quickly landed in front of her and launched a palm strike into her stomach, making her skid back a bit before she stabilized herself with her foot. Wow, I have got to say, for a non-bender you are very impressive yourself. I expected you to be gone the first second, but dang, you are really interesting, she said with a smirk and a light blush on her cheeks that he missed due to her hair. I mean, I'm still going to send you flying, but you'll have my respect, the bandit said as Naruto smirked. Hey, if I am to fly away, can I at least have the name of the girl who did it? Seems fair, doesn't it? He asked as he kept light on his toes, weaving around and under the rapid fire earth that was sent flying at him in the form of boulders, slabs, and columns. How about this? You last another 2 minutes, I'll give you my name, and if by the time that 2 minutes is up you land at least 5 hits on me, I'll give you something special, the bandit said as she smirked playfully and pursed her lips like a kiss, which only made Naruto blush as he got spun around due to getting his arm hit by a column that he failed to dodge by getting flustered. Damn, she really is toying with, but I'll be damned if I lose, he thought with a smirk as this was getting his blood pumping. Fine, and after I last the 2 minutes I'll ring out, Naruto said as he scaled up a nearby boulder she had launched, thankful that his sandals hadn't fallen off as he threw them far to her sides, making her flinch and look in their directions only for him to land in front of her. One, he said as to a kick at her shins, connecting and sending her falling down only for her to grab the earth and send a pillar up from under him and another pillar to stand herself up. Due to the panic of the pillar, all it did was send him flying upward instead of towards the outside of the ring. As he fell, he quickly landed back on the pillar and leapt off it and over her again towards another one of the numerous pillars that littered the arena. As his feet connected with the pillar, he knew he had to be fast as he used it as a springboard to launch at her again, only to land on his hand in front of her. 2 and 3, he said as he spun on his hands, putting his leg into splits and hitting her like a revolving door with both feet before she fell and bounced to the side. I can't believe this. The blind bandit is on the ropes. Every hit she launches might connect, but he just won't let himself get flung out of the ring. Xian Fu commentated as the bandit growled and slammed her hands down on the ground, twisting them as the ground under his hands quickly became like sand, ready to swallow him up before he cartwheeled backwards just before it tried to swallow him. He had to continue to hop around as the sand followed him around like a tigerdill on the hunt. Guess I'm going to have to be a lot more serious now that she is, he thought as he grabbed one of his tossed away sandals and threw it at her, smiling as she bent an earth wall to block the sandal. Not only did this show she could somehow see without seeing, but it also meant she had to stop the sand, allowing him to quickly run the second the wall went up and use it as a platform to leap over and spring off of towards her. For he said as he grabbed her shoulder mid-flight over her and used her to pull himself down, resulting in her being flipped over him and onto her back. And 5, which means I win, as I think it's been 2 minutes, he said with a smirk as he flicked her forehead, making her blush and glare at him before she slammed her hand down on the ground. Wait for me at the bottom of the stairs, she said with a smirk before she bent a column at him, only for him to let this one hit and send him out of the ring, thankful that she hadn't used that much power so he didn't have to worry about breaking anything. Ladies and gentlemen, in an exciting turn around, the blind bandit wins. Xian Fu yelled as Naruto chuckled from his place on the floor, waving off the medic that the assistant who had his bag had brought along. As the crowd cheered for the bandit, Naruto waited patiently beside the stairs with his bag on his lap before he looked up to see the bandit making her way down with a smirk. Oh good, you're still around. I thought I might have made you fly away too hard, she said as he chuckled. Nah, I'm sturdier than I look. I hope I at least made things interesting for you, he said as she smiled and made her way to the bottom of the stairs where he was waiting for her. Oh, more than interesting, she said as she grabbed him by the collar of his shirt and pulled him in, surprising him as her lips locked with his for a simple but passionate kiss on the lips. That was for landing 5 hits on me, she said as she let him go, tucking something into the pocket of his vest as his face turned atomic red while he was frozen in place. He found himself only able to move his head to follow her as she walked away, noticing a visible sway to her hips that showed off her rather plump and bubbly rear that he hadn't seen or noticed in the ring or from the stands. Oh yeah, and my name is Toph Beifong. When we do meet again you better not forget it, she said as she smirked and winked at him before earth-bending a door, entering it, and closing it behind her. Well, that was something, he thought as his mind was still processing what that something was. It honestly didn't take long for him to collapse onto his bed after returning back to his own room, the fight with Toph being more taxing than he thought it was at first while still being really fun in the end. He didn't care much for the money he missed out on, again money never really being something he cared about, and was much happier with the knowledge of her name alongside whatever paper she had slipped into his vest pocket. Plus the kiss was a rather impactful prize, especially since it was his first kiss. He wondered if he could have a chance to meet Toph again tomorrow, hoping he had time to find her again just as he started to fall asleep. Next morning, as Naruto stirred awake, he frowned as he smelled food, sitting up a bit, and looking towards the door connecting to the living room part of his own room. When he picked it in, he ended up picking a high-scale one that was almost like a mini apartment with a living room and kitchen included. He didn't know he paid for a meal though. Carefully opening the door, it wasn't long before he saw a familiar blur of pink crash into him for a hug. Naruto! You're awake! A familiar voice cheered out before Ty Lee smiled up at him. Ty Lee? Aren't you supposed to be with Azula? I mean, I know you were supposed to come see me, but I wasn't expecting you so soon, he stammered a bit, hugging her back while blushing a bit from the feeling of her chest pressed against his. She said I could come and keep you company since Pink doesn't really scream Fire Nation all that much, she said, pulling away from the hug but keeping her hands on his shoulders before she noticed his different colored outfit. I see you got a new outfit as well, you look really good in green, she complimented with a smile before perking up as if she just remembered about the food. Oh yeah, I made breakfast for you. I hope you're hungry, Ty Lee said with a smile, pulling him along towards the table. Wow, really? He asked, only to get an excited nod from her before she started to plate up some food for him. Thanks, this all looks really good, he started before he dug in, finding it to be just as delicious as it smelled and tastes even better. He added, which made her happily bounce and clap her hands in her seat across from him. I'm so glad you like it. I used to be the one to cook for my sisters when my mother couldn't, she explained to him, still smiling as she watched him eat while slowly eating as well. With you showing up, does that mean we are leaving soon? He asked, hoping there was some time to try and find a way to talk to Toph again. She said only at most until the sun starts to set before we leave, so she sent me to hang out with you and keep you company until then, Ty Lee said excitedly, as for her this was a chance to spend more time with Naruto. So far there hadn't been much time together after getting off the boat, and even then Azula and Mai were around, so it wasn't really just the two of them like this was. So what have you done so far on your own? She asked, hoping he at least had some fun on his own. I went shopping and bought some clothes as well as a few things I thought you, Azula, and even Mai might like. I even saw an earth-bending show last night, which was an entertainment event or something as well, which was pretty fun. It was an underground event where they allowed others to fight a match against one of them at the end. I was curious, so I tried and almost beat her without using my bending. It was pretty fun, to be honest, he said while Ty Lee smiled excitedly. Really? That's so amazing. I'm really glad you had a fun time. You really deserve it, Ty Lee said with a warm smile, resting her chin on her propped-up hand and giving his hand a squeeze once she reached across the table to grab it. Yeah, it was pretty fun. I saw a few places I thought you might like, so we can head there later if you want, he suggested, blushing a bit at her holding her hand so nonchalantly. Oh really? That is so sweet that you were thinking of me like that. I can't wait to go there with you, Ty Lee excitedly said before she started to eat faster yet still with manners. It wasn't long before they both finished eating and he found himself walking around town, Naruto finding himself chuckling at how excited and happy Ty Lee seemingly was having him. She so far loved the cute shops he brought her to, and all in all he had been enjoying the day with her alongside. They had gotten a message from Azula, which was left at the front desk of the hotel once they were done with breakfast, saying that she should be done by this afternoon, and they could come up to see the finished result of the Fire Nation's transportation research. While this meant he couldn't visit Toph again, it did mean they could get moving again. He did at least learn a bit about her from a store owner, as apparently the flying boar on the paper she gave him was that of the Beifong family, one of the richest and most prestigious families in the Earth Kingdom. He could only hope that he might come across the blind girl again, and that his travels might loop around back to Jailing, where he could possibly sneak in to see her again. So where do you want to go to next? Naruto asked while he held a stack of boxes containing all of Ty Lee's purchases. He didn't really mind carrying them for her, since it isn't like she expected him to from the start. She tried to carry them herself at first before he took up carrying them after they grew in number. Oh! Let's get something to eat. I saw this nice sweet shop that I wanted to try with you, she said as he chuckled and nodded. She wanted to go there not only because she loved sweets, but because due to him not having been out in the world much, she wanted to show him a ton of things. Okay, we can go if you really want to. Odd choice for lunch, but could be worse, he teased, not minding the fact he was getting pulled around by her. He actually found her rather refreshing, as her attitude was light and cheery, making him feel relaxed even if she was a bit hyper and energetic. He couldn't help but smirk a bit as Ty Lee seemed to enjoy herself as she snacked on various sweets. Are you sure you don't want any? Ty Lee asked as she held out a pastry that already had a bite taken out of it towards him, some icing on her cheek. Thank you, but I'll probably snack on the bit I bought to go for later. I had a bit, but I don't want to go overboard, Naruto said as Ty Lee pouted a bit but continued to eat her snacks. You should probably try and not be a messy eater, he teased her, reaching over to wipe the icing off her cheek with a napkin, making her blush a bit and lower her head a bit, which only made him chuckle a bit. Azula said the Avatar was seen coming this way last night. She thinks they might be here already, so she told me to be careful about being noticed, Ty Lee said, wanting to change the topic from her messy eating. She sped things up because of it, and has something planned for when they leave town. You'd think it'd be easier to see them given how they stick out, but I haven't seen any of them all today, Ty Lee added as she whined a bit while Naruto chuckled and took a sip of his tea that he had ordered. Do you really want them to see you? If they do, won't it mess things up or something? Naruto asked, not really caring for Azula's capture the Avatar plan, as he'd much rather have the Fire Nation lose against him, though he still stood firm on his staying neutral to everything. The last thing he wanted right now was to get involved in the fights of the war, since if the Fire Nation higher-ups found out about him, he was sure they'd work hard to lock him back up. Truthfully, he was only tagging along with Azula because Ty Lee asked him to, and Azula at least seemed to respect his wishes and went out of her way to keep him hidden. Plus, as odd as it sounded, he was safest with the Fire Nation princess since no one would question her about him around her. Yeah, Azula did warn me not to get seen, but I doubt they'd come this way, Plus with your hood up and your new Earth Nation outfit we should be fine, Ty Lee said before she went back to happily eating her snacks as she and Naruto talked and enjoyed each other's company. Few hours later, by the time night had rolled around, he walked behind Ty Lee, carrying their things as they made their way to the meet-up spot Azula had decided on. It wasn't that hard as he had always had good balance. That, and Ty Lee had taken some of them to make it easier. Are you sure this is the right place? I don't see anyone here? Naruto asked as he looked around the clearing they arrived at after walking through behind Jailing. It was different from the place they had arrived at after leaving Omashu. Yes, I'm positive. Azula personally took me here to make sure I knew where to bring you, Ty Lee said, somewhat worried she might have gotten lost as she set down a few of her things and pulled out a map Azula had given her just in case before both she and Naruto felt the ground rumble and heard the sound of clunking metal. Naruto acted first, moving Ty Lee behind him before they both watched as what looked like a mix between a tank and a train tear through the trees in front of them before coming to a screeching halt. He was quick to relax as the tank very clearly screamed Fire Nation, and as a door on the train itself opened he was reaffirmed of his suspicions as Azula walked out with a proud smile on her face. If they were going for stealth they had definitely failed. What do you think of the Fire Nation's pioneering achievement in transportation? This here is a combination of a train and a tank for speed and power. It runs solely on firebending and coal, and it can scale any terrain. It also is capable to towing other cars to store things as well as act as our personal chambers while riding it, Azula said with a smile as Naruto looked it over. Definitely looks menacing, I'll give it that, Naruto said as Azula smiled, taking that as a compliment. So what are we going to do next? Ty Lee mentioned you having something in plan for when the Avatar leaves Jailing, Naruto said before Azula nodded, still smiling as she walked over to him. Yes, I do, but to get in position we have to drive a bit in here, so until I get reports of them leaving I suspect we can enjoy the area and relax, she said before patting his arm. You though may continue to relax as we deal with the Avatar. What we do next depends on if we can achieve our goal. If we can't this time we can travel around a bit more until we find them again, Azula said as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. That's fine, you have a job so don't let me hold you back, he told her while looking at the train cars. Okay, I'm pretty certain that I'm sleeping in a separate car, so which is mine? He asked before Azula nodded and pointed to the second third of the 4 cars it was pulling. The housing for the people working on it is behind the train itself, ours is next, yours is behind ours, and the last is storing our mongoose lizards. Plus besides the drivers, mechanic, and engineer we will be all alone here. To them you are a tracker that we found and was the one to hypothesize the Avatar coming this way, so with that coming true they won't bother or question you, Azula said while he was thankful for her forethought again. Thanks, I got all 3 of you souvenirs. I know you're used to better stuff but honestly I thought this would suit you, Naruto said as he reached into his bag and pulled out a pair of bronze-collared bracelets. They were big enough to cover at least half of her forearm while still looking, what he hoped to be, stylish. I don't know how well they'll fit given I guess your size, but I hope you like them, Naruto said as he rubbed the back of his neck. He had never really shopped for a girl, let alone a princess, so he hoped he had done at least a somewhat decent job at it. They actually fit perfectly, and for something bought in a small town like this they are rather nice quality. Thank you very much, Azula said with a smile as she clasped them onto her wrists. She liked the idea that Naruto had thought of her and gotten her something. Yeah, I was surprised too, but the store looked high-end and they were a bit expensive, but I figured it'd be fine. Not like I had much other use for the money you gave me in mind, he said as Azula smiled, looking over her new bracelets before Ty Lee bounced over to them with a smile. Wow, those look really good on you, Azula. They fit your scary and elegant theme to your outfit, Ty Lee said as Naruto chuckled and reached into his bag again, looking around for Ty Lee's gift as he hoped she liked it as much as Azula seemingly liked hers. I also got you something, Ty Lee, and honestly it was the only pink thing I could find, Naruto said as he pulled out a pink box which Ty Lee happily opened to reveal a pink necklace with a gold lotus flower pendant hanging from it. Oh Naruto, I love it! I have to go see how it looks on me, Ty Lee said excitedly as she quickly ran off to find a mirror to look at herself in. I even got something for you, my Naruto said as he pulled out a black long box and held it out towards the ever straight-faced girl. And don't worry, it isn't jewelry, as I got you something you seem to like and enjoy, he added after he got a slightly unsure look from her before she opened it to reveal a set of 20 black throwing knives. Huh, these are actually pretty cool. Thanks, I guess, Mai said, Naruto swearing he saw the corner of her mouth turn up ever so slightly before she walked off into the girl's car. Don't mind her, I'd been friends with Mai for a long time, and while she doesn't show it, but she does actually really like what you got her. I wouldn't be surprised if she uses those knives next time she fights, Azula said with a chuckle, Naruto taking her word for it before Ty Lee ran out of the car and dove at him to capture him in a hug. It looks so beautiful. Thank you, Naruto, Ty Lee said as she hugged him tight, unaware of the blush on his face from how much she was pressing her sizable chest against him. I am glad you like it, Ty Lee, Naruto said, unsure where to put his hands as due to how tight she was hugging him. He was really getting a feel of her chest against him and felt his face easily heating up due to it. Azula, though, quickly cleared her throat as she found herself really not liking the sight in front of her before she put her hand on Ty Lee's shoulder and, somewhat forcefully, pulled her away. Ty Lee, I understand you are happy and thankful, but we really must be going, she said as she held a strained smile on her face that made Naruto raise an eyebrow at despite being thankful towards her for saving him. Oh, you're right. Come on, Naruto, let's go see your car, Ty Lee said as she started to pull Naruto towards his car, missing how Azula narrowed her eyes and followed after them. The cars are very basic and merely have a bed in them. I also had to put the cooking equipment and food in your cart given ours has 3 people in it. I hope you don't mind that, Azula said, not particularly wanting them alone. I don't mind as it makes sense, though as you said we probably should get moving, he said as he didn't want to really keep her behind schedule or anything because of them taking him on a tour of the train. Feel free to rest until we get to our destination. If you need anything, feel free to knock on our conjoined door, Azula said with a smile before she dragged a pouting Ty Lee out with her. As Naruto looked around his room, he let out a relaxed sigh as he tossed his bag on the bed before sitting down on it, his back against the headboard. He was a bit excited to be in this weird contraption as personally he had never been on a train despite this not really being a full-on train. Please brace yourself as we are about to depart, a voice over the intercom said as Naruto felt it lurch forward before picking up speed. He closed his eyes while he laid down, hoping things wouldn't be too hectic in the morning after some rest. It took a while to fall asleep due to not being used to being on a train, but it wasn't nearly as odd or uncomfortable as he thought it would be. Next morning, Naruto personally found Azula's choice of spot for them to rest at to be rather nice. She had chosen a clearing next to an inlet that had the mountains over them to their right. It was quite scenic with a large pond and a large tree that leaned over near the back of the clearing for shade. All in all, it surprised him a bit given he didn't peg Azula for the scenic type. So we are just going to wait here until the Avatar comes this way or something? He asked as he sat in front of Azula with Tylee and Mai at his sides while they ate breakfast under the shade of the tree. Yes, I figure they'll leave later jailing tonight or tomorrow afternoon at the latest, given they've been in jailing for a day and are never known to stay in one place for long. When they do eventually leave, it's bound to be a day or so before they land around here, giving us the perfect chance to give chase. For now, though, we can relax and enjoy the scenery, Azula told him with a smile, taking a sip of her tea to show she was more than comfortable waiting. She knew they would go this way after leaving jailing, since with the Avatar's past trajectory, and how they tended to distancing themselves after leaving towns, it made sense for them to come this way. How was sleeping in your train car? I hope it was comfy, Tylee asked, getting Azula to also look over at him, wondering and hoping it was comfortable. It wasn't as loud or as jostling as I thought it'd be. For the most part, one forgot I was in a train car, he told them, which prompted Azula to grow a proud smile. Good, glad to see my specifications were met exactly as I requested. It wouldn't make much sense for it to be uncomfortable for us since we need to be well rested and ready to fight the Avatar at any moment throughout the night, she explained before Naruto set down his cup of tea and stood up. Yeah, perfect for hunting avatars, but enough about that. I want to relax a bit, he said with a smirk before he took off his shirt and looked to his side towards the pond and started to run towards it, leaving his sandals behind. He used a bit of his fire to burst himself up into the air, allowing him to cannonball into the large pond that seemed basically to be a small lake. Great. Hope you brought a change of clothes, Mai droned out, looking over at him with a roll of her eyes while he rolled his back at her with a smirk. Oh, don't worry, Mai. I can easily instant dry my clothes with some fire. My clothes might be fireproof, but that doesn't mean they don't get warmed up by my fire, he told her as he started to float on his back, arms crossed behind his head. Oh, I want to go swimming too. Let me go change real quick, Tylee said, her eyes locked on his chest before quickly running off towards the train. Aren't you worried about there being diseases? Azula asked, finding a pond to not be the best place to go swimming. Relax, there's a stream in and out of this pond, so it isn't completely stagnant. and even if it was it'd still be fine since untouched nature tends to be fine. Also, I'm warming it up a bit so it should help things a bit, he told her with a shrug while he floated, looking over to her before she too set down her cup of tea. I guess a dip wouldn't be too bad, especially if you can help dry us off quickly. No use just sitting around and waiting all day, might as well do something fun while we wait, Azula told him, smirking at him from over her shoulder before she sauntered off, Naruto unable to really keep his eyes from drawn to her but a bit due to her subtle but noticeable swaying. Don't expect me to go swimming or anything like those two, Mai warned him while he held his hands up in surrender. I wasn't expecting and I definitely wouldn't bother you to. You do whatever you please, I've learned enough about you to know that's how you are, he replied with a smirk, getting her to smirk a bit before they both looked back at the train as they heard the doors to it open. So tell me, Naruto, what do you think? Azula asked as she walked out of the train car with Ty Lee right behind. Naruto had to blush a bit when he looked at the two girls, both of them looking rather stunning in their swimsuits. Ty Lee had gone with a white bikini top that showed a bit of cleavage and a white skirt, while Azula went with a dark red tube top that had a bit of extra covering with a cloth Xing over her chest that went around and behind her neck with a matching dark red skirt of her own. You both look really nice. Like, amazing, Naruto stammered out a bit, trying his best not to look over the two girls too much. He grumbled a bit as he sunk down into the water to just under his nose to try and hide his blush, which only got a giggle from Ty Lee and a proud smirk from Azula. Oh, I'm glad you like it. I'm so happy I brought it along with me, Ty Lee giggled out as she ran into the water and swam over so she could hug him, which only got him to blush more and a bit of fire to flicker on the top spikes of his hair before he quickly patted it away. I was uncertain about bringing mine, but even a princess has the undeniable right to some relaxation. That, and Ty Lee would have undoubtedly been upset if I didn't bring it. Honestly, I'm glad I did end up bringing it, aren't you? Azula asked as she slowly stepped into the water while her eyes were locked with his. Naruto, though, couldn't help but blush at Azula's words mixed with the sight of both of them in their swimsuits. It was at times like these that his inexperience with girls from being locked up all those years really was biting him in the butt. Yeah, it's really good you brought it, he muttered, thankful that Ty Lee let him go and allowed him to make some distance between him and them. Shame we don't have a ball or something to toss around, though just floating is nice on its own, Ty Lee said with a smile before she fell backwards and started to float on her back, Naruto quickly looking away so that he didn't end up staring at her chest. I know something fun we can do, Azula told them as she sat down in the water, it going down to just below her breasts. It's actually a fire-bending strength test where firebenders practice bending underwater. I'm curious to see how well you would do given the intensity of your fire, she suggested, getting Ty Lee to sit up and move over to Azula's side. Also curious to see how he'd do since she's seen Azula do a bit of this as kids. So I just try and use fire underwater? It doesn't seem like there'd be much of anything from trying, honestly, he told her with a frown, not seeing how anything would really happen if he tried to summon fire underwater. For many firebenders there isn't. Only a bit of a push of water from the force of attempted fire, but fire-bending masters can make some reactions and the result is their fire being much stronger and hotter in battle. Come over here and try, Azula explained before motioning to the spot next to her. Naruto wasn't sure what would come from this given his fire wasn't brought from firebending, but at the same time he couldn't deny he wasn't a bit curious. As he sat beside her he looked down at his hands, clenching a fist of his before he punched forward underwater and summoning a blast of his fire. It wasn't as if he expected to see fire actually appear underwater, since that would be ridiculous. But the sight of a burst of boiling bubbles shooting through the water did surprise him. Wow! That was amazing! I've never seen that happen before, Ty Lee said excitedly, looking over to Azula only to see her friend smiling as she stared out into the pond with stars essentially in her eyes. Neither have I, once again proving how amazing and strong your fire is, she told him with a pleased smile, leaning over against him and slowly running a finger over his chest while looking into his eyes. From the closeness, her tone, and look in her eyes were easily all enough to make Naruto quickly blush and scoot back a little bit only for Ty Lee to run into the water with a nervous look in her eyes. Come on, Naruto, let's see who can hold their breath the longest, she quickly said, tugging at an arm of his a bit. Naruto felt a bit as if he was between two saber-toothed moose lions with how Azula and Ty Lee were looking at one another. His instincts screamed at him to say nothing and also to run, but as Azula merely leaned back with a smirk the tension fades away. Though the look in her eyes made him feel she was still a bit perturbed. Their time in the pond was relaxing, with mainly some swimming with Ty Lee while taking some breaks with Azula as she lounged near the edge of the water. By the end of things, he once again found himself once more between Ty Lee and Azula as they sat close beside him to warm up. "You are like a mini fire with how much heat you give off," Ty Lee said with a giggle as scooched closer to him to help dry off faster while they sat on a towel that Mai had gotten for them. "Yes, and it's quite relaxing," Azula said with a smile, finding herself enjoying the reactions they were getting out of Naruto. Mai, though, couldn't stop herself from rolling her eyes with a groan, finding the flirting her two friends were doing with Naruto to be gross to watch. "Don't you have a quicker way of drying off?" Mai asked, rolling her eyes again at Azula's slight glare. "I do. It's just something I figure people might freak out at," he told her, getting a confused look from Mai while Ty Lee and Azula looked at him, clearly interested in what this other way was. "Now you've really got my interest. What could possibly make us freak out at?" Azula asked before Naruto sighed and held out a hand to each of them. "It needs you both to hold on to me, and you cannot let go even for a moment. If you do, you'll get really hurt," he told them, still not saying what his other way was since it was easier to show them instead of telling them. "Okay, I trust you and promise not to let go," Ty Lee said with a smile, softly holding his hand and giving it a squeeze while looking him in the eyes and once again finding his blush cute since she too couldn't help from blushing a bit. "Anywhere will do, right? It doesn't have to be your hand?" Azula asked, smirking as she met his eyes before boldly putting her hand on his thigh, making him jolt a bit before nodding a bit, his blush darkening from how her hand was halfway up his thigh. "Now just don't let go, okay?" he reminded them before Ty Lee and Azula widened their eyes as in an instant they were both on fire alongside Naruto, only it didn't hurt. Azula looked around in awe as she looked out from within the bright fire that coated her, its color and light giving the world around her an amazing tint, while it flickered and blazed. She expected to feel pain and almost let go before Naruto put his hand on top of hers to stop her, a look in his eyes telling her it was all right. Instead of any pain, all she felt was a slight warmth, and almost a feeling of comfort, as if she had just gotten out of a hot spring or a sauna. Ty Lee was also in amazement as she looked around, making the fire sway and dance on her with each turn of her head. The fire looked so pretty over her and felt soft and comforting, making her wonder if this was how it felt to be held in Naruto's arms protectively or otherwise. "Whoa, I can see how people would freak out at being set on fire. Are you two really okay?" Mai asked, her eyes actually a bit wide from the sight while both Azula and Ty Lee nodded just as the fire started to fade away. "That was amazing! Your fire has a caring aura to it, just like the rest of you, Naruto," Ty Lee told him with a giggle as she hugged him with a happy smile. "It was definitely amazing. Never have I seen fire that doesn't burn." "How was that possible?" Azula asked while running a hand over her skirt to notice it, along with the rest of her, was completely dry. "During my years of being chained up, I realized if I was touching someone, and willingly made an effort, I could have my fireproof aspect carry over to them. As long as there is direct contact, then they don't get hurt by my fire or any other fire. Thankfully this also carries over to clothing," Naruto told them, blushing a bit at the thought of how it would have gone if their swimsuits weren't protected before standing up and shaking the thought out of his head once Ty Lee broke the hug. "So if Mai would have touched me before you caught us on fire, she would have been burnt?" Ty Lee asked with Naruto nodding as he walked over to put his shirt and sandals back on. "Yeah, and if either of you would have let go for even a fraction of a second, the fire would have stung you, which was why I was very adamant on the don't let go part. I mean, I could have shown it off when I melted the rocks right after Ty Lee first freed me, instead just carrying her out while I did it. But if she fussed and freaked out and I stopped touching her, the lava would have seriously hurt her," he continued on, feeling like he had to explain things a bit, which only got another hug from Ty Lee. "Oh, you are so sweet, worrying about me even back then when you first met me." Ty Lee giggled out, nuzzling against him a bit while Naruto just rubbed her back, unsure what to do given she was hugging him rather tightly in a bikini. He seriously needed to get more used to girls. "The more I learn about you, the more interesting you get. I'm glad we are traveling together, Naruto, and that we were able to get over my rather poor first impressions," Azula said, rubbing his back while she moved close to his side with a soft smile up at him. "If you three are going to keep doing this, I'm going to go barf in a bush," Mai groaned out, getting an annoyed look from Azula that she didn't care about before Ty Lee pulled away with a blush on her cheeks. "We should probably get changed after all. We may be dry, but it's still early spring and we don't want to get sick," Ty Lee said quickly to make an excuse before she hurried off. "That's true, We can always talk more about this later, Azula told him before she also walked back towards the train. Naruto sighed a bit once the girls were inside the train car, sitting back down on the picnic blanket, while Mai just stared flatly at him. Well, aren't you just a natural ladies' man? She dryly told him, Naruto getting the joke despite her flat tone. Yeah, sounds about right, he grumbled, heating back up his tea and not knowing who or what to curse or complain to for the situations he found himself in. After the girls got changed, things thankfully calmed down a bit, Azula getting busy with princess duties in regards to conveying her plans and reasons for things, and Ty Lee doing her daily meditation. Naruto mainly stuck with rereading over the book he had brought with him from the Ember Island temple. He wasn't sure how much of it was truthful, but from the occasional scoffs from the QB inside him it was clear not all of it was right. It seemed the sages of the temple were trying to empower already present bending in benders and grant it to non-benders by shoving spirits into them. How they were able to get spirits, or even shove them into kids, was beyond him, but given he was the only one who survived, it was clear things didn't work out. They didn't have many spirits, only me to test with, and thinking I was a mere measly little firefox spirit, the QB told him with an annoyed grumble, getting Naruto to take a pause from reading to hear him, given he only talked when it was important. I take no pride in killing them and assure you it wasn't my intent. I tried to break out of them as carefully as I could, nothing more. I must have been too much for those kids, the strain of them shoving me and them killing them in the end. By whatever reason you were the only one able to handle me, and they were able to keep me from escaping. Those sages were monsters for trying to mess with spirits as if they were toys and sacrificing those children, he said with a huff before Naruto felt the connection go silent, telling him that was all the QB would say on the matter, and personally he didn't want to know more right now. Last thing he needed was for the nightmares of their screams to come back. Closing the book, he sighed, wanting to get his mind off it before looking over to see Mai practicing using the knives he got her on a nearby tree. So, how do they feel? Naruto asked as he walked up to her, making his presence known before he got too close and before she picked up another knife. Why are you over here? Why not go bother Ty Lee or Azula? I'm certain she'll love to have you ask what she is planning, Mai told him with a slightly annoyed tone, annoyed that he was coming over to bother her of all people. Well, Ty Lee is meditating and I really don't want to get involved in Fire Nation things, and I saw you using the knives I bought you and was curious if they were good since I bought them hoping they'd be useful to you, he said as he sat down a bit away from her to give her space and show her he wasn't attempting to bother her too much. They are pretty good, I guess, better than I expected, so I can definitely use them, Mai said with a tired sigh after she looked him over a bit and felt he was trying his best not to annoy her. Can I watch you practice maybe, if that's okay? I don't use knives and never really have seen people who do use them. Promise I will be completely silent, and you won't feel my eyes on you, he asked her while she stared flatly at him before she sighed again. Whatever, I don't care as long as you don't bother me with questions like Ty Lee or try and correct my form like Azula, she warned him, getting him to hold his hands up in surrender. I promise you won't hear a peep from me, he assured her, which she seemed to accept before she collected the knives from the trunk of the tree and walked back to the spot she had been throwing them from. Mai paid him no mind as she went back to throwing her knives, expecting him to talk or her to feel his eyes on her like she occasionally did when Azula watched her. Only as she kept throwing she found she had gotten neither from him. In fact, she had to look over a bit to see if he was even still there. She did her best to keep an eye on him out of the corner of hers, given she could throw knives to a bullseye with her eyes closed, and found he also wasn't being a perv or anything with how or where he was looking. To her it seemed he was following her arms and how she moved them, as well as when she released the knives from her hand. I don't know what is so interesting about knives when your firebending is crazier than Azula's. What has you so interested? She asked as she retrieved her knives. Well, firebending is ordinary to me given I kind of summon fire, as easy as breathing. It's more interesting to see just how skilled someone can be with throwing knives and arrow launchers than fire, he explained before flinching a bit as a knife stabbed into the ground in front of him a bit. Bring it back to me. I suppose I can show you how it's done a bit, she muttered, hoping he wouldn't make her repeat herself before he picked it up and walked over without saying anything. She was very short with her explanations, not wanting to get too into it since she felt that'd be annoying for her to try since she learned mainly by doing. Naruto didn't seem to mind through, intently listening to her barebones steps and nodding while she moved his hand and arm a bit. Now you try, she told him, motioning to the tree in front of them while standing to his side a bit. Naruto narrowed his eyes a bit while he focused, practicing the throw a few times before he actually threw the knife. The result though wasn't as good as he thought it'd be, as instead it lazily arced and embedded itself near the bottom of the tree. He could feel his ears heating up with an embarrassed blush before it only grew, as he heard her start to chuckle a bit. "Wow, you really are bad at this," she said while still chuckling a bit. "Here, try it like this," she added, handing him another knife and moving his arm again to show him how it was supposed to go before stopping. "Here is when you start to let go so that by the time you get to here," she said while moving his arm a bit more, "it flies out." "Got it?" she asked before he nodded, allowing her to take a step back. She continued to watch him, noticing he was slowly getting better and closer to the target, with a few hitting some of the outer circles of it. "Better, right?" Naruto asked while Mai smirked and walked over to pull the knives out of the tree. "Yeah, but you still suck, so keep watching and maybe you'll get better," she teased with a smirk, getting him to roll his eyes with a smirk of his own before sitting back down where he was a bit ago. He stuck to silently watching as she kept at it, rolling his eyes a few times at her continuous poking fun at his subpar skills here and there until, before either of them realized, it was dinner time. Dinner was peaceful a bit, Azula unable to eat with them due to still being busy with apparent info gathering. It wasn't until a bit before they were heading back to bed that she showed back up, seemingly annoyed but happy. "Sorry it took so long to get things done. We got reports of the Avatar leaving jailing a bit ago. They are camping nearby the town, so it is just like I figured, and I'll be busy preparing things all day tomorrow, so I'm sorry in advance if I don't have time for you," Azula told him with a frown, explaining her combo of emotions he had read on her face. "Don't worry about it, you do you, and I'll find something to do tomorrow. I doubt it'll be like where I'll be bored all day," he assured her, which made her smile at how understanding he was. "I'll make it up to you after all this, I promise," she promised him with a smile before she headed off into her train car, Ty Lee waving to him from inside and Mai simply looking his way for a moment before she walked back in. "A day to myself doesn't seem too bad," he thought to himself before he copied their example and headed to bed. Next day, just like Azula had warned him, the moment he woke up things seemed busy. Soldiers were preparing things in and out of the train to the point he had to quickly head away from the train so he wouldn't be in anyone's way. He didn't mind too much though Mai seemed to be annoyed, it being obvious as she grumpily reloaded her arrow shooters and got her knives ready for tomorrow. He knew not to bother her, but leaving her a cup of tea to help seemed to be somewhat appreciated from the slight nod she gave him after she drank some of it. "Everyone is so busy. I can't even get into my train car for my bikini cause," Azula commandeered at Ty Lee whined out as she laid down on the ground beside him while the two of them ate their small breakfast. "Well, she did say everyone would be busy. What did you expect?" Naruto asked her with a shrug of his shoulders. He didn't mind it too much, since the sooner this all was over the sooner they could hopefully relax. "Oh, I know something fun you can do. You can try lightning again," Ty Lee said as she quickly sat up and started to bounce a bit, clearly excited to see him try again. "Well, I did make peace with my spirit again, so he might let me try, but let's eat first, and then I'll try," he told her, being quiet when talking about his spirit but also curious to see how it'd go now that the QB was potentially okay with it. "Relax, I won't make it explode this time. Play around with lightning all you want if you like the thought of it so much," the QB told him with a scoff, showing he had stopped caring too much. Despite Ty Lee's excitement, the two of them ate their breakfast at a reasonable speed before he found himself standing a few yards in front of the pond with Ty Lee to his side a safe distance away. "Okay, now I just have to remember how it felt to summon it the first time, and this time it won't explode in my face," he thought as he took a few deep breaths. It wasn't long before his arms started to spark with lightning, it growing stronger and stronger while he just got used to it. Unlike before, this time it didn't suddenly explode, and despite what Azula said about only being its guide, it seemed to cling to him with no desire to go anywhere. "That is because it's lightning made by me. Don't be light with it though, you still need to respect it," the QB warned, getting Naruto to quickly nod before he opened his hands and pointed his palms away from him. Firing the lightning was simple, just an exhale, and the twin bolts fired off and blasted into the mountain across from him. The thunder that followed was hard and rattled the area around them, even causing a good deal of leaves to fall from the trees around them. "Whoa! That was amazing!" Ty Lee yelled, half due to how impressed she was and half due to how loud the thunder was. "What was that? Are we under attack?" The general, who was in charge of the train alongside Azula, yelled out as he and two soldiers rushed out. "No! Sorry, I was just practicing my lightning," Naruto told them, rubbing the back of his head a bit embarrassed to cause a scene while Azula calmly walked over. "I knew you could do it, I saw a bit of it, and it was amazing." Just like your fire, the lightning you generate is unlike anything I've seen before, Azula said with a smile, running a finger over his still somewhat sparking arm before looking him in the eyes. Yeah, you should have seen it, Azula. His arms were covered in it, and he was just standing there, and next second, boom! It blasted into the mountain. Ty Lee described while pointing to the mountain where a crater was now visible in the side of it. I saw him firing it, but to hear you held it so long makes it all the more intriguing. General, come, I want to get finished with preparations as soon as we can so I can help my friend with his training, Azula told the general before the man and the 2 soldiers followed her. Oh, one more thing, Azula said before turning around. Should we be expecting any more thunder? She asked with a smirk, Naruto chuckling a bit as he rubbed the back of his head while pinching his fingers together to tell her there'd be a bit, which got a chuckle out of her. Well, do be careful and Ty Lee move further back so you don't go deaf, she told him, continuing on back to the train to leave Naruto and Ty Lee alone again. Well? What are you going to try next? Ty Lee asked excitedly while Naruto rubbed his chin and thought. I don't know, I'll experiment around with things, I guess. Maybe try firing from 2 fingers instead of from my palms, since I want to see how precise I can be with it, since I might be crap aim with knives, he started, saying that part loud enough for Mai to hear and smirk at. I feel I can do better with lightning, he finished with a smirk as he generated lightning on one of his arms, ready to experiment and practice a bit. Practicing with lightning was far different than fire, where unlike fire he couldn't be as creative with it. Sure, he had thought up a few different ways of using it with a few of Azula's suggestions once she had finished up alongside ideas of his own. I feel a bit bad damaging the mountain as much as I did, Naruto muttered as they ate dinner, while the train was finally prepared and ready for whatever happened tomorrow. They aren't all that bad, Ty Lee tried to reassure him, only to flinch a bit as another piece of the mountain crashed down. It's fine, it's not like you destroyed an entire mountain. Some dents in it isn't anything big, so don't worry so much, Mai told him, while Azula merely looked at the dents he made with a smile. Think of them as a way to remember this occasion, a way to say you were here years later, Azula pointed out, Naruto just sighing and nodding while he continued to eat. We can't stay up too late tonight, since the Avatar's group will undoubtedly be landing later tonight, and that is when we will begin our plan, she told him, taking a pause from his food to listen to her. We might have to walk through your room to get to the mongoose lizards, but we will ensure that we do not wake you when we do, Azula quickly added before Naruto nodded. Thank you for planning to be careful about waking me up, but don't worry about it too much. If I am woken up, I'll just go back to bed, he told them with a shrug before he started to eat again. Next morning, sleeping through the night was easy and it felt fine, not much different from the last time he slept while the train was on the move, other than the thunder that rumbled and slightly stirred him. By the time he woke up, the train seemed to be parked, and, as he peeked outside, they were parked near a river with Azula, Ty Lee, and Mai standing beside it. So I take it no luck so far? Naruto asked with a yawn, raising an eyebrow at Mai and Ty Lee as Ty Lee seemed to be happily hugging Mai, though the look from Mai told him it was easier not to ask the reason. The Avatar and his group are sleep deprived and are now just trying to give us the slip after washing off the bison's shedding fur. Give us time and we'll be done here, I promise, Azula told him while inspecting the area around them, noticing a path of fur and some broken tree tops. How'd you sleep? We tried to be as quiet as we could for you, Ty Lee asked with a smile, letting go of Mai and cartwheeling over to him. I slept fine, nothing really bad noise-wise, so it's fine. Seems like you all are busy though, he said, motioning to Azula, who turned back towards them. Mai, Ty Lee, you head in that direction and keep your eye out for the bison, she ordered, pointing in the direction of the broken treetops before turning towards the trail of fur. I'll follow this trail, she added before the 3 of them got on their mongoose lizards. If you want to walk around, try not to venture off too far. If you get lost, return to the river and follow the tracks. We wouldn't dare leave or go too far without you, Azula told him as both groups went off, Ty Lee excitedly waving to him and leaving Naruto alone beside the river. We have breakfast prepared for you. The princess made certain of us to have it ready for you, a solider told him, getting Naruto to walk back into his room, which was also the kitchen, so he could eat. Once breakfast was done, Naruto frowned a bit, really unsure what to do now that he was alone. I guess a walk through nature wouldn't be too bad, not like I can really do much else, he thought, not wanting to follow Ty Lee and Mai all too much since they would most likely be fighting the Avatar's friends, and the last thing he wanted to was to get involved in things. It actually felt pretty nice to walk alone through a forest, that alone being a first for him in a long time. He couldn't even remember the last time he had a nice and simple walk like this, even before the whole taken from the orphanage mess that resulted in how he was now. Although he'd prefer it without the avatar hunting in the background, but he felt he owed it to Ty Lee to travel with her a bit. Truthfully speaking, he didn't mind traveling with them as much as he thought he would. Even Azula was much better than how their first meeting made him expect things to be. In the end, he just had to have faith that the avatar could handle himself. He had been doing a good job at it so far after all. He continued to walk through the forest, heading up a mountain path due to wanting to see the view of the forests below before the earth rumbled for a quick moment, and a rock spire shot out from under him. He might have been unprepared, but he was quick to react, leaping off it at the last possible moment before it normally would have shot him up, and used that to leap forward. Quick as ever. Nice to see surprise attacks don't get you too much either, a familiar voice quipped out, getting him to look ahead of him to see a familiar girl raise up on an earth pillar from behind a rock. Toph, what are you doing here? Naruto asked, clearly shocked to find her since this was the last place he expected to see her. Come sit down, I'll try and explain it. We have tea, Toph told him, moving the pillar back down while Naruto frowned and walked around the large boulder between them. We? He asked before finding her sitting across from an older man, a fire with a teapot sitting above it between them. Nice to meet you, life seems to bringing people together today. I am Iroh, the man introduced himself with a smile, holding out a hand and a cup of tea towards him. Yeah, people I didn't expect to see out here. I'm Naruto. Thank you for the tea, Naruto said, accepting Iroh's handshake and his tea before sitting beside Toph. Didn't expect you for the stalker type, Toph teased, jabbing him in the side with her elbow while he rolled his eyes. I was walking through the forest, enjoying the sights when I somehow ran across you. I wouldn't call that stalking since I had to leave jailing 3 days ago, he told her while taking a sip of his tea. Though I am glad to see you since I wanted to find you again before I left jailing but wasn't able to, he added, getting her to smile and slug him in the arm. That kiss have me on your mind? She teased, which only made him blush as he remembered it before Iroh's chuckle reminded them they weren't alone. So you two know each other? You two seem close. Is he one of the persons who wanted to take care of you? Iroh asked, getting a raised eyebrow from Naruto while Toph shook her head. No, those were my friends I was traveling with who I still need to meet up with, Toph said with a slight groan as she stood up. Thank you again, she told Iroh, who merely smiled and raised his cup a bit to her. My pleasure. Sharing tea with a fascinating stranger is one of life's true delights, the old man said with a smile while Toph shook her head. No, thank you for what you said. It really helped me, she told him, getting a smile from Iroh. Oh, and about your nephew, maybe you should tell him you need him too, she suggested to Iroh, Naruto staying silent since he didn't know what it was about before she held her hand out to Naruto. You should come with me, Naruto. I think my friends would like a non-bender who can keep up with me, she offered, getting Naruto to frown as he gently shook his head. I have people I'm traveling with and stuff I need to figure out, I'm just realizing. If we meet again we'll see, as I'll try and take it as a sign. Thank you for the offer though, he explained, hoping it was a good way of saying things before she smiled and nodded. Okay, I'll look forward to the next time we run into each other. Try not to keep a girl waiting, she said with a wink before walking off, leaving Naruto to watch her as she walked off. You're not a non-bender, are you? Iroh asked once Toph was far enough away, which got Naruto to chuckle a bit. Guess it might be a bit obvious for a firebender, he said with a sigh, pointing a finger up in the air to create a small flame on top of it, since he too had been able to discern how Iroh wasn't a normal kind old man. I'm rather skilled at seeing the elements in people, though I have to say that you don't look the part of a firebender, and even the fire in you seems calm yet fierce, Iroh explained while he took another sip of tea. The boy's hair was unlike anything he had seen before in his many years, though it did remind him of the sun in a sense. You give good advice, that's what you did with Toph, right? He asked, getting a nod from Iroh, who set down his cup of tea so he could listen. Think you could offer me some? He wondered while Iroh hoped that he'd be able to help the boy. Then tell me, is it cowardly to sit on the side while the world is fighting? Is it bad to not want to get involved to avoid being hurt by the enemy again? Naruto asked, trying to keep things vague, while his hand instinctively went to the scarring around his wrist from the shackle he used to wear that he had begun covering up with wristbands. You were young when you were hurt, weren't you? Iroh asked him, as the fear and worry in his eyes wasn't something new, which only meant the boy has had it around for quite some time. I was a small boy and I recently just got freed from it. Only to find myself traveling around with someone related to the man who ordered the events that resulted in what happened to me, he muttered before he pulled his knees up to his chest. I mean, she's kept me safe so far and stayed true to her promise to show me the world, but I only really went along with her because a friend of hers saved me. It still feels wrong to not do anything though, he continued while Iroh nodded with a hum of him and thought. Pain is a valid reason to step out of the way. I can only imagine the physical pain you felt as well as the lingering spiritual pain that still haunts you. I can see you are at ends with yourself, and the fact you don't enjoy sitting by as the fighting goes on shows a lot about yourself, Iroh begun, while finish his cup of tea and putting out the fire. I cannot tell you how you should act, but I can tell you to trust yourself when you feel you must, as everyone possess a point where they cannot accept any more, he finished while he packed away his teapot and cups. Thanks, Iroh. I guess that helps. I'll just stay here and think it over. Naruto could only sigh out as Iroh gave him an apologetic smile, seemingly needing to head off as well. The universe is weighed in favor of the avatar. As long as said avatar makes a wholehearted effort to keep balance, the universe will help in ways that propel them along. In the end, your decision to sit out isn't going to do much, the QB spoke up, surprising Naruto, but somewhat enjoying that the spirit was being more vocal. As for you being traveling partners of the Princess of the Fire Nation, well, she is keeping us hidden and our escape from the temple a secret. Let us be thankful for that, he added while Naruto nodded before he hopped up onto the nearby boulder. All I can hope is that things don't go too badly, he thought with a sigh, leaning back a bit to enjoy the view in front of him while the sun started to set. Best we get going. I can feel the Princess Fire being used a lot, so her fight will end soon, so that'll probably mean we are leaving, the QB said after a bit of gazing at the sight. You can feel when certain people are using fire? Naruto asked, not knowing that was one of his abilities. I can do a lot, boy, more than I have time to explain. I'll let you feel it for now so you can find her, as even when not active all firebenders have a heat inside them that I can sense. It just happens to be stronger while they are bending and for a short period afterwards, he explained a bit before going silent, and suddenly the tip of one of his fingers lit up. Moving it around a bit, he noticed it growing weaker and stronger, quickly taking it as the tracking of Azula, which all in all seemed pretty interesting. Not go as planned? Naruto asked as he was quickly able to find her, as she was seemingly making her way up the mountain away from what seemed to be a ghost town. 6 on 1 are odds anyone would struggle with. I was able to take one down a bit. How were you able to find me? Azula asked before noticing his finger that quickly extinguished. My spirit can apparently track firebenders if they bent fire recently, and let me use the skill to find you, Naruto said with a chuckle, getting her to smirk and walk up to him a bit more. Well, at least I know you can find your way back to me and that I can call out to you, Azula said with a soft smile, moving in closer to him before a yipping interrupted her. They both paused a bit at the sound, turning to the side to see what looked to be a brown whiskerless fox with completely blue eyes looking at them. Well, about time that owl and those foxes sensed me. Now listen up, boy, that fox is important, so head back to camp with it, and be ready to explain things to the girlie here as we have a library to visit, the QB told him, Naruto crouching down to pet the fox while curious about what library a spirit would visit. In the end, he was a bit excited as he felt this could be really fun. Oh, what a cute little fox! Ty Lee squealed out while she pet the fox as she and Mai sat beside him to warm up and dry off after having been dumped into the river by the sky bison. So this little guy sensed your spirit and came to find you? She asked while Naruto nodded and fed the fox a piece of jerky. Yeah, apparently my spirit knows the group of spirits this guy belongs to as well as who he works for. It helps out at some kind of library and my spirit wants me to go there, Naruto told them as Azula stared down at the fox with a bit of a frown. Not to question your spirit's decision or deny his request, but can I at least ask why he is so interested in you going to this library? Azula asked, showing she was more just wondering than trying to dismiss things. Allow me to talk to her, the QB said in his head before Naruto instantly felt it take him over. This wasn't the first time the QB has taken him over, it having happened in the past back before he was chained up. Honestly, it wasn't all that invasive since all he could really do was talk through him and move slightly, since whatever was keeping the spirit in him also made sure the spirit couldn't take control of him entirely. I know you are curious and most likely slightly worried for the boy, but we need to go there. Wan Tong's library holds tomes that could help the both of us severely, so you can either get things ready to help us or we'll go alone, the QB declared through him, standing up and staring down Azula while she saw Naruto's sapphire blue eyes turn blood red with his pupil turning into a thin slit. I meant no disrespect, as like you said, I am indeed merely curious and worried. Last thing I want is to drive a wedge and cause you to want to leave, Azula calmly assured the spirit speaking through Naruto before it nodded and Naruto's eyes returned to normal, which allowed him to sit back down to continue warming up Tylee and Mai. Give me the rest of today and tomorrow to get things ready, though it comes at an inopportune time as I am needed at another base to lead a project, Azula told him with a frown, personally wanting to go with him to this spirit library since even she had to admit it sounded interesting. Oh, I can go with him. I'll lead him to the base when we are done at this library place, Ty Lee suggested with an excitedly raised hand before Azula cleared her throat, her eyebrows furrowed and the fist she was coughing into being tightly clenched. Actually, Mai would be the much better choice for this, Azula told them, getting both Mai and Ty Lee to look at her in confusion and slight hurt added in Ty Lee's eyes. No offense, Naruto, but why me? Mai asked while quickly making sure he knew he wasn't the reason she didn't want to go, but instead it being just because she felt it was an annoying chore in general. She was also unsure why she was being asked to go when Ty Lee was seemingly more than willing to go, because you know the location and path to the base better than she does. Things will just go smoother with you going with him than her going. Now hurry up and get dried off so we can get going, Azula hurriedly explained before she turned towards the train and walked off. Great, I love libraries, Mai droned out, lazily holding her hand out towards Naruto before he got the message and quickly used his fire to dry them off near instantly with his fire. Sorry you got roped into things, Mai. Hopefully it won't be too bad, Naruto said, a bit sorry for roping her in like this. It's not like he was against spending time with her, since they were just now starting to get on moderately friendlier terms, but last thing he wanted was for it to be forced. It's fine, it could be worse, and trust me, it has, Mai told him with a wave to tell him to stop worrying before she got up and walked off towards the train. Boo! I wanted to go with you and the little foxy here. Ty Lee whined a bit as she leaned against him, still sitting beside him with a somewhat childish pout on her face while she pet the fox who seemed happy to be getting so much attention. I know, but if Azula thinks it's safer and easier this way, then we have to trust and go along with it in the end. I promise I'll look for some books you might like there and bring them back, he told her with a smile, rubbing her back a bit while she smiled and scooted closer to him. Naruto couldn't help but blush a bit, unsure whether or not to keep his hand on her lower back while she sat up against his side. Alright, enough flirting you two, come on or we'll leave you behind, Mai yelled out, getting Naruto to quickly pull his hand away, a blush heating up his face while Ty Lee pouted a bit more and glared at her friend. We weren't flirting. I was just telling her not to be so upset about not going with me to the library. Naruto tried to defend himself, which only got a slight smirk from Mai, who nodded as if she didn't believe him before she started to walk back to the train with him, going after her to try and explain. The next morning seemed a bit hectic as, separate from them, the train's captain and crew seemed to be charting their course to the next Fire Nation base. His group though was trying to figure out where he and Mai were going, since all they had to go off of was that there was a library, and the fox would guide them. If they were going to go, they'd need to know where the library is terrain-wise so they can have the right kind of mount to ride. So how does this work? Can you talk to the fox? Mai asked as they ate breakfast, looking at him with a slightly raised eyebrow. No, at least I don't think so, Naruto questioned, curious how it worked when he had a massive fox inside him, only for a scoff to tell him no. Bring out a map, they can read maps and know them well enough to recognize where the library is roughly. I might be able to talk to them, but I'm not playing translator, the QB told him, with Naruto relaying it to Azula, who seemed prepared, already having one rolled up and ready for them. I was planning to use the location the fox found us, and how it had come from the direction of the desert to determine the best mounts to get you both, but having the spirit itself tell us is much safer, Azula told them as she unrolled a map in front of them, already having formed an idea of what to give them for their travels, but clearly wanted to make sure they were rightfully prepared. They all watched as the fox looked around the map before it quickly placed a paw at a spot inside the desert, tapping one of its nails to show exactly where it was pointing to. Close to the middle of the desert, and quite a ways away from the base we are heading towards. I'll have to call for some sandfish hounds for you both so you can get through the desert quickly, Azula told them, marking the point the fox was pointing to with a dot of ink before she rolled the map up once the spot was dry. Sandfish hounds? Naruto asked, confused what they were since he hadn't heard of creatures like them before. Sandfish hounds are a rare variety of creature, a large hound mixed with a sandfish lizard, a creature able to almost swim through sand. They are the quickest beings when traveling through sand, and the Fire Nation keeps some bred for expeditions into potentially loose terrain, and they are kept nearby. I'll have a request for them sent after breakfast, she explained with a smile, happy to show off her knowledge and use her power to help him before she took a sip of her tea. Breakfast had to be rushed a little bit, as much as Azula didn't like that she had to, since everyone was busy and Azula was needed for a lot of the preparations. While Azula got things ready, Naruto figured it was best to get his things together while the fox laid on his bed happily napping away. Are you sure this guy is a spirit, and not just a wild animal who is happy to get some food and place to sleep? Naruto asked a bit jokingly as he watched the fox huff contentedly in its sleep. That all makes them work non-stop. While they don't mind, they also do enjoy some time to relax like anyone. Just wait until you meet Wanshur Tong and the size of his library. You'll understand why it wants to rest then, the QB told him. Naruto only able to nod a bit since his spirit was definitely the kind that knew what it was talking about. You're getting ready good. I told her you most likely were, but Azula wanted me to check and make sure, Mai said with a sigh once she walked into his train car only to plop herself down on the edge of his bed, purposefully sitting as far away from the fox that she could. Apparently the sandhounds are being brought over already, so we need to be ready to go when they get here in a bit, she added, getting him to nod just as he finished up. Well, I'm good to go, as the upside of not having much means packing up is always takes little time, he told her, closing up his bag and slinging it over his shoulder before standing up. What about you? Do you have everything ready to go? He asked as she got up off his bed and started walking towards the door. I don't need to bring anything other than my knives and darts. You can bring your stuff with you if you want. Honestly, it's probably best since we are going to a library. Gives you space to carry whatever you get, Mai said, given she didn't care one way or another, while also understanding how, given his low number of belongings, it was easier for him to just bring his stuff along. Come on, buddy. Time to go, he said with a quick whistle, getting the fox to quickly perk up and run off the bed to follow after them. The sandfish hounds showed up an hour later, and to Naruto they looked like massive lizards with sharp claws and fangs alongside thick wolf fur on their backs that looked more like a pelt that was draped over them rather than actual fur they grew naturally. Wow, these things look nothing like I was expecting, Naruto muttered as he walked up to them with Azula and the others. They are a rare sight, since it is said to be near impossible for those besides the Fire Nation to capture them in the wild, as they are one of the two major predators of the Sea Wong Desert. Though the ones raised by us are just as deadly as the ones in the wild, not even a sand shark will dare come close to you while riding them, as two is enough to give a sand shark trouble, Azula explained as she stared down one of the sandfish hounds, locking eyes with it before the animal actually bowed its head to her. Here, you two will need these, a Fire Nation soldier spoke up as he walked over, handing both of them a metal canister the size of their fists with a screw off top. In each of these vials are sand that has been marked in their pheromones. Opening them up will get both of them to return to you near instantly, as it tells them you are their territory, and they are naturally ingrained to protect their territory, he continued to explain while the two of them pocketed the canisters. And this is where the sad part comes into play, Azula said, walking up to them once the soldier was done explaining. You see, after you are done at the library, I have a rather intense event planned. One I know you will not want to be around, so that leaves an option I am sad to suggest, she continued, with Naruto quickly putting together where she was suggesting. So you are going to have me stay somewhere again like I did in jailing, with one of you come and get me when we can go? He asked, not seeing how this was sad since last time they were apart for no more than 2 days. It's sad this time because you will be going somewhere that, while it's safe for you, it's quite difficult for us to contact you. The only place nearby where our event is happening would be Ba Sing Se, Azula revealed, making it clear just how difficult it would be for the princess of the Fire Nation to contact him, or even send someone to get him while he was in the Earth Kingdom capital. Though don't worry, we will be able to when the time comes. Do not doubt my nation's reach, she assured him, which only made him chuckle a bit. I don't doubt it, but how am I even going to be allowed in there? He asked before she gave him a soft smile and pulled out a small thin book. The forging of a passport is easy and simple, and you lack the black hair and amber eyes our nation is known for. Your hair might cause some confusion, but it is highly unlikely they will think Fire Nation when they look at you, she explained, with Naruto accepting the passport from her. It looking real at first glance, though with this being his first time seeing a passport, he had no reference to go off of. But Azula, he's going to be lonely in Ba Sing Se with no one there with him, Ty Lee cried out, seemingly just hearing about this plan as well, given how quick she was to hug his arm and how tightly she was holding onto him. Can I stay with him? It's not like I can't change the color of my outfit or anything, she said, since the thought of him being alone made her feel like they were abandoning him. Ty Lee, you can't. I need you, and Naruto will be safer if he is alone, since if anyone from the Avatar's group saw you they'd recognize you. Naruto, on the other hand, has only briefly met them, so there is less a chance they'd notice him if he keeps his hood up, Azula explained, and showed the both of them just how much she had thought things out. It seemed that the last thing she wanted was for him to have a connection to them in the eyes of the Avatar's group to ensure he was safe from them potentially going after him. It was obvious that he'd be safest if he was alone, given he had only ran into the Avatar's group once, and during that time he only focused on grabbed Mai's brother and defending himself. Well, sending me to Ba Sing Se is one way of letting me see the world, he said with a slight smile, patting Ty Lee's head to maybe help ease her given how strongly she was pouting. I'm a princess of my word, so if us being apart for a while allows you to see more of the world, then I am willing to set things up for you temporarily, Azula said with a smirk, putting emphasis on temporarily to make it clear to the both of them. Great, now that that is all sorted out, can we get going? Mai asked a bit impatiently, already waiting atop her sandfish hound and letting out an annoyed sigh. Yes, you both can, as it is about time we head off as well, Azula said, ignoring Mai's impatience but also knowing they had to set off soon. She smiled a bit as she walked over to him before Ty Lee quickly hugged Naruto. I'm going to really miss you, Naruto. I know this trip to the library is important, but I so wish you didn't have to go. Ty Lee whined out as she nuzzled against his chest, frowning up at him since the mere thought of him being away like this stung in her chest. I admit that it'll be weird being away from you all for a while, given I've only really been around you all since leaving the cave, but with everything it is probably best I go on my own for a bit. Like Azula said, it's not permanent, so I'll be back to traveling with you in time, he assured Ty Lee, hugging her back softly while rubbing her back a bit as she tightly hugged him before he frowned once he realized something. Wait, how will you be able to tell me you all are done if I'm in Ba Sing Se? This isn't really somewhere you can send Ty Lee to fetch me, he quickly brought up, turning to Azula, who gently moved Ty Lee back as the girl started to let go of him on her own. I have my ways, so don't worry. You'll know when it's time to leave, she told him before walking closer to him with a bit of a frown. I do have to agree with her though. I'll definitely miss you just as much, Azula confessed as she surprised him and her friends by hugging him. It wasn't like Azula wasn't the kind to be close with him given how she acted in Omashu and in other occasions, but this had a different tone to it. Those previous cases it was more her being playful, while this was more tender, her resting her head against his chest as he could only hug her back with a blush on his cheeks. Though the hug couldn't go on as long as he thought Azula wanted it to, her pulling away with a slight frown on her face being proof of it. As much as I enjoyed that we both have places to go, I shall see you again in time. Travel safe, Azula said, a somber tone lingering around it before she walked off with Ty Lee quickly following her, and waving to him the entire time until they got into the tank train. Don't expect a hug from me or anything, you hear? Mai said in a slight warning, getting a chuckle out of him as he hopped onto his sandfish hound. Don't worry, I'm not. Hell, I didn't expect Azula to give me one, he muttered, still surprised by the hug from her before the fox yipping shook him out of his thoughts and brought his attention back to what they intending to do. Enough about that though, we need to head out. Lead the way, little guy, Naruto said with the fox yipping again excitedly before quickly taking off and leaving them to follow after it. He knew the Siwang Desert was massive. He had seen it on a map, which made him realize it was bigger than all of Ba Sing Se, but the sandfish hounds were traversing it like it was nothing. Honestly, he was a bit surprised the fox was able to stay ahead of them with the intense speed their mounts were going at, but then again this was a spirit fox, so normal animal speed didn't really apply to it. The fox seemed on a direct path, it clearly knowing where to go as it never curved around nor did it stop to get its bearings. It didn't seem to take long before it stopped and sat down once they reached a tall tower sticking out from the sand with a window at the top of it. Think this is the place? Doesn't quite seem like a library, Mai questioned as they both got off their sandfish hounds, Naruto grabbing his bag beforehand, which was a wise choice as the animals instantly burrowed under the sand to relax and enjoy the sand the second they were off. Tell her not to worry, the library is just hidden under the desert, the QB told him, Naruto relaying the message, which merely got a shrug from Mai. Well, did you bring a rope and a grappling hook or something, cause if not I'm going to have to carry you and fly, Naruto suggested, only for Mai to shoot an arrow up at the window that seemingly had a long rope attached. I come prepared, now you climb up first, Mai said as she pointed to her dress, quickly making it clear that she didn't want him looking up her skirt. Also stab this into the top so we can climb down inside, she added while handing him an arrow. Got it, see you inside, he told her before he started to climb up the rope with the fox seemingly running up it with no problem. Oh, and Naruto! If you look up once you start climbing down I will stab you, Mai growled out from below him, her tone showing she was not joking around. I promise I won't even dare think about it, he told her with a bit of a shiver, as he could just imagine the glare she was giving him from below. Once at the top, he quickly stabbed his arrow into the window like he had been asked only. Instead of going down the new rope, he waited at the top and helped Mai onto the windowsill. Why aren't you going down? Mai asked with a confused look while she pulled the first arrow out, pressing a button on the side of it to reel the rope back into it. That is why. I felt you'd want to retrieve your arrows for there to be no sign of us coming here and doubted it'd be easy to yank them out. So rather than damage the window more than we are doing, I'll just pull it out from here and use my fire to slowly descend, he suggested before Mai shrugged her shoulders. Saves me the effort and risk of the arrow breaking when I try and pull it out. I'll move to the side a bit so I don't accidentally get burnt, Mai said as she started to climb down the rope. He waited a bit once she got to the end of the rope for her to move out of the way before he pulled the arrow out and recalled the rope just like she had. Even now, as he looked down to see the massive insides of the library, he didn't have a fear of heights or falling as he dropped down. Careful not to accidentally set fire to anything he used his fire in short bursts to slow himself down before tucking and rolling to lessen the force of things at the end. Nice fall, Mai said with a smile smirk as she accepted her arrow back from him. Hey, it was either that or I potentially catch something on fire, he told her before a deep voice grunting got them to turn around to see a massive black and white barn owl walk towards them. Yes, and I thank you for being cautious with your fire unlike the spirit inside you normally is with it, the owl said as it looked them over. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the spirit Wanshur, he who knows 10,000 things, and besides being an apparent vessel to a spirit, you are both humans, which are no longer allowed here in my study, Wanshur told them, narrowing his eyes at them as it hunched over to look at them closer. Wanshur, you owe me for helping you create this library and lending you my foxes as your knowledge seekers, the QB said as it spoke through Naruto, his voice deepening and his eyes turning red like before. My vessel and his friend will not harm your stupid library as we are in search of info for how to get me out of him safely, he added, getting a raised eyebrow, or at least the equivalent that a giant owl could do without eyebrows, from Wanshur, who stood up straight with a sigh. Fine, you do have a point. I am eternally in your debt, given I wouldn't have been able to have all of this without your help. But the spirit started off before pointing a wing at them. If you wish to peruse or, in your vessel's case only, check out material you need to contribute to my library, he declared while Naruto and Mai looked to one another. Sure, I don't know how factual it is, but consider it a guide of how low the human's knowledge of spirits is, Naruto said as he pulled out the book he had brought with him from the temple and offered it to Wanshur. Ah yes, humans truly do not understand us. Even the Avatar barely does, but at least with this gone there will be no future cases like you, the owl said as it passed its wing over the book, seemingly making it disappear. I guess I have this. It's just an old book that has some stupid poetry that I wrote when I was bored and there was no one around me, which I swear if you tell the others I'll use you as target practice, Mai said, ending it with a threat directed at Naruto, who held his hands up in surrender to show he had no intention of revealing her secret. Stupid or not, one's thoughts can be considered knowledge into their souls, so I will accept it. Follow the knowledge seeker as it, and I will guide you to the section you seek, he told them, once again passing its wing over Mai's book and making it disappear like his book, before it motioned for them to go on in with a wave of its wing. Naruto looked at Mai as a fox yipped at them, her shrug showing she didn't care, before the two of them followed it through the library with Wanshur behind them. This section is normally extremely off-limits, but this is a unique situation, so only the vessel may peruse it. Your friend will have to check other sections with a knowledge seeker if she wishes to, Wanshur explained with Mai sighing and waving him off. I don't care. Show me some knife-throwing stuff and I'll be content while he does whatever he needs to do, Mai said, since she really didn't care about not being allowed to read one section of a library she didn't really want to come to in the first place. Sorry, I promise we won't be here for too long, Naruto apologized, given he knew she didn't want to be here. It's fine, it's important to you and you've been tagging along with Azula's stuff despite not wanting to get involved. We all decided helping you and letting you come here is the least we can do to make up for it, Mai assured him as she wasn't really annoyed. Just her usual bothered mood, so it wasn't his or anyone's fault, before she walked off with the fox leading her way. Just continue down this path and we will arrive at the section, Wanshur reminded him, and getting him to continue walking until they got to a set of massive doors. At first Naruto wasn't sure how they'd open up with their size and probable weight, only for them to open easily with a flap of Wanshur's wings. Beyond these doors lies knowledge not seen in ages. I warn you not to be like other humans and become hungry for power. I only allow you here because your spirit would not guide you here if you were a dangerous type, but that does not mean I will not do everything in my power to protect my knowledge and my kind from danger, the massive spirit warned him, Naruto calmly meeting the owl's eyes without feeling too afraid. I promise, I am only here to try and learn for a way to release him and keep him safe. If I did intend to abuse my spirit's power, like you said, I wouldn't be here, he tried to assure the spirit, only for Tong to turn around and start walking off. We shall see. I have other things to attend to, so if you need anything, the knowledge seeker you came here with will guide you to where you want to go, Tong said before turning around the corner and leaving him alone in the massive section. Well, where do we start? Naruto asked with no idea how to begin in this massive library. Follow the spirit, it knows where I want you to start, the QB told him, Naruto looking over to see the fox spirit sitting patiently waiting before hopping up with a yip and racing off to guide him. Now Naruto knew he wasn't the smartest guy, but at the same time he wasn't an idiot. Reading tome after tome about spirits though, that was making him feel like an idiot. Don't worry kid, I don't expect you to understand much of this. Just keep looking and I'll decode anything that pops out, his spirit said in a surprisingly understanding tone. Surprising given he honestly expected the spirit to call him an idiot or something. I'm not that mean, you brat. It yelled, reminding Naruto it could hear his thoughts. Sorry. You can't blame me given all you do is yell at me. He grumbled before turning a page. What all have you been able to figure out so far? He asked, since so far he hasn't had the faintest idea what all these books were talking about. From what these books say, our bond is a bit difficult to undo. If I had to guess, due to the fire sages having been allied with the Avatar in the past, they were privy to a bit more knowledge than expected. They somehow made our bond similar to the Avatar and his spirit, only I don't have the gift of reincarnation, the QB explained, making Naruto frown at how this didn't spell anything good for them, although he paused as he caught something. Wait, the Avatar has a spirit in him? Naruto asked in shock, getting a sigh from his own spirit. Yes, how else do you explain the bending all elements, Avatar state, and reincarnation cycle? It told him as if it was something overtly obvious. I won't go into details, but yes, the Avatar does have a spirit in them, a powerful one, and our situation is rather airtight. If I try and force my way out, one or both of us could die, which means all of firebending dies. Only way out is if you willingly do it, and even then it'll end in your death, he revealed, making Naruto sigh and lay down back on the ground. Humans like only about 100 years if we are lucky, and time goes by quickly for you, right? I promise I'll let you out if I think I'm on the verge of dying, Naruto told him, since this was all he could do. Idiot! Don't talk about dying so nonchalantly, but I guess I could have worse humans to be stuck in. A few more years and you won't be too bad, the QB admitted with a humph, which only made Naruto laugh a bit at. Are things helping you like you thought they would? Tong asked as he walked back into the spirit section of the library. Yes and no. It answered some questions, but not in the way we really wanted. Thanks for letting us in here at least, he told the spirit with a sigh before sitting up. Say, before I leave, do you think I can check some books out? They'll just be simple books, nothing from here, and just for some friends of mine who weren't able to come with me, he asked with Tong staring down at him as if to consider the request. I suppose you could if you left with a knowledge seeker to return them when you are done, but you must first do something for me. Something only you can, Tong said, motioning with a wink for Naruto to follow while some knowledge seekers worked on putting the books he had brought out back to where they came from. You see, right now you and your friend aren't my only visitors, and recently they visited a damaged section, a section only your spirit can help me fix, he continued to explain before they arrived outside a section with a red banner above the door with the symbol for fire on it, and 4 stone dragons decorating the area leading up to it. All in all, it screamed Fire Nation from head to toe, so to speak. Oh good, you're finally here. The owl told me to come wait here for you, Mai said with a sigh while Tong paid her little mind and stopped in front of the door. Yeah, he says he needs my help with something. You find anything you like? He asked, Mai giving a sort of gesture with her hand. In the past someone from the Fire Nation came here. I was hesitant on allowing him access, but did so in the end, only to regret it in the end, for after getting what he wanted, knowledge to destroy his enemy, he burned everything in this section, the spirit revealed, the doors opening to reveal an entire massive section full of only ash and dust. People from the Fire Nation are secretive and like to keep stuff about their homes secret. Times have changed them, the QB told Tong through him, the spirit nodding in agreement before motioning to the ashes. If you return what is lost, I will allow you to check out items from my library, he said, Naruto frowning since he wasn't sure what he could do to fix things. I can undo the damage fire causes to a degree. On inanimate objects it is easy, and I can do it as long as the majority of the ashes are contained. Living beings are more difficult as it has to be relatively fresh damage for me to be able to heal it. I'll take care of it, you just fill the room with my fire and I'll stop it once it's done, the QB explained to him, once again shocking him at what his spirit could do but nodded along. Might want to step back, Mai, Naruto suggested, motioning for Mai to get behind one of the stone dragons as he took a deep breath and summoned his fire to envelop his arms. Knowing he didn't have to do anything really, everything relying on his spirit to do the real stuff, he slammed his hands on the ground and poured fire into the room. The sight of things reforming through the fire from the ash was an interesting sight, as while the fire burned he watched as bookshelves were pieced back together with books following shortly after. He was amazed by it all once everything was finished, and his fire stopped. Whoa! That was amazing, Naruto said as he looked around the newly restored Fire Nation section. I should honestly be grateful you decided to come here, otherwise all of this would be still destroyed. As promised, I will allow you to check things out from my library and will give you this, Wansher Tong said before it waved a wing over the ground in front of them, revealing a rather large egg once his wing had passed over. An egg? Gee, thanks, Mai said with a raised eyebrow as she walked in behind the spirit. This egg was left behind ages ago when I kicked a traveler out of my library. I do not have the warmth needed to hatch it, nor am I an animal caretaker. I researched what animal will hatch from this, and it isn't some fragile egg, so do not worry about it breaking and keep it heated with your fire periodically throughout the day if you wish to hatch it, the spirit explained before it turned around. Thank you for the egg and the permission to check books out. Naruto quickly thanked him with a bow, getting Wansher Tong to look back at him slightly with a nod before he left. Well? Guess we better see what all is here now. After I fixed everything, he turned to tell Mai while he picked up the egg, seeing it was nearly as big as his torso. Are you seriously going to keep that thing? Mai asked as she poked the egg lightly with a raised eyebrow. It's an egg given by a spirit. I feel I'd be stupid to throw it away, Naruto told her, getting a nod from Mai since she saw his point. Now come on, we have permission to be here, but I feel overstaying our welcome won't be too wise for us to do, plus you probably want to get out of here as soon as we can, he continued before he slid the end into his bag and headed deeper into the Fire Nation section with Mai. He was amazed at the books and scrolls around this section. For Azula, he found a few old firebending stances that were apparently depicted with blue fire alongside, and for Ty Lee he found a few different things Tai Chi and yoga related. He even was able to find something related to knife throwing for Mai, which, while she acted like she didn't care about it, he saw an ever so slight smile forming on the corner of her mouth, so he took that as a victory. For him, browsing for something to take was a bit tricky. He didn't quite have anything that was his thing. Being stuck in a temple for several years and being a part of some child spirit program didn't give him much time to get hobbies. Guess I can get something about meditation and tea, since they are the only stuff he really did while in the cave. Maybe some basic guides to things like knife throwing, since I do enjoy that with Mai. Hell, I can maybe even find some to learn how to play that flute I made a little bit better, he thought while he put those scrolls in his bag as well. Playing a flute was something he picked up out of boredom, whittling one out of bamboo. Sure, it was crappy, but it worked. He'd probably try and look around for a real one when he had more time. He paused a bit as his eyes landed on a scroll. There wasn't anything particularly standoutish about it. The end of it was red like all the others around it, but the spiral design mainly was what caught his eye. The settling of Ember Island was written on the outside of the scroll. He wasn't sure why that interested him. Ember Island is just a resort island from what he remembered, with very little full-time residents, so why was there a scroll about something for it? He didn't get much time to dwell on it as the whole library started to shake violently to the point he almost fell over, him putting the scroll quickly in his bag before steadying himself and slinging it over his shoulder. Mai! Are you okay? Naruto yelled out as he ran out from the row of shelves, hoping none of them fell or were about to start following. Yeah, I'm fine other than some scrolls falling on my head. What was that? An earthquake? She asked, walking over to him as the library was still shaking around them a bit before a knowledge seeker ran over and started yipping at them. He's the same one that guided us here. He says the Avatar and his friends angered Wansher Tong, so he's drawing the library back to the spirit world. Long story short, we need to go. Now! The QB yelled at him, Naruto widening his eyes before he grabbed Mai's hand and started running, briefly explaining things to her and making it clear they absolutely needed to leave. Can't the fox go and yell at the owl to stop, or, I don't know, let us leave before it tries to punish the avatar? Mai growled out, clearly annoyed at the situation and glaring at the fox that was following them. It says it can't. Wan Shirtong is really angry as the Fire Nation man burning up part of his library was the first strike, and the avatar lying about no abusing the knowledge here was the last straw. He's just supposed to go with us cause we are taking scrolls. Naruto conveyed to her what the QB told him again, which only made Mai sigh. Leaving here is going to be difficult if we run into the avatar and his friends. What are we going to do? Mai asked as she looked up once they got into the main area of the library to see a rope coming down from the window entrance. They quickly had to brace themselves though as Wan Shirtong flew up in a burst of speed from below them. There isn't too many ways with them around and all this stuff going on. I have a plan, but you have to trust me, Naruto told her, looking her in the eyes before she nodded. Okay, I trust you. What's the plan? She asked before she widened her eyes as he handed her his bag and picked her up in a bridal carry. Hold on tight and try and make yourself smaller, he told her, a serious tone to his voice as he quickly started running towards the railing while Mai quickly wrapped her arms around his neck and shut her eyes tightly just as he leapt off the side of it. As they fell, Naruto made sure to keep himself upright before he kicked his feet down and summoned his fire. As the jets of fire burst out, he was a bit wobbly given whenever he did fly he used his hands as they always felt a bit more stable. He kept the power strong but condensed, not wanting to burn down the library while still ensure he can fly, and after a bit he was finally able to stabilize and start flying up towards the exit. I am so going to kill you later for this, Mai yelled out as he quickly flew up, Naruto ready for whatever yelling she had for him after this, but given the circumstances this really was the only way for them to get out. While flying up he focused solely on aiming for the window, doing his best to point himself towards it. He really hoped no one from the Avatar's group was nearby, but as he flew past, quickly looking to the side, he groaned internally at his luck as he saw the waterbender staring directly at him, while she faced off against Wan Shirtong. Great. Let's hope that doesn't bite me in the butt, Naruto thought as he sped up through the top tower of the library. This was where things got the trickiest as he had to mess with his speed, weakening it as they got up to the window to allow him to stop near it before he bent his legs up. With his feet pointed back behind him, to direct his fire behind him, he quickly used it to propel him out the window while pulling Mai close so she didn't hit herself on the frame of the window. Once out the window he found himself with another, more serious problem, landing. He had to keep a stable speed to get some real good distance away from the tower and the Avatar's group, so with Mai in his arms and a bag full of important stuff on her lap he knew this was going to be a rough landing if he didn't change how they were going. With some movements of his feet thankfully he was able to turn over, his back now to the sand as he braced himself for impact, intending to take the entirety of the fall to keep Mai safe. Crashing into a dune of sand at high speeds was about just like he expected it to be, rough and a bit painful as he slammed into the ground and skidded through the sand. He did his best to shield Mai from the brunt of the crash, as well as keep them above the sand while they gradually slowed down and stopped. Oh wow. That's dumb. How are you, Mai? Naruto asked as he opened his eyes only to blush and widen his eyes a bit. Oh, I'm fine. This position though I could do without, she said in her natural flat tone, though he could feel a hint of slight annoyance as, due to the crash, she had somehow ended up straddling his chest. I didn't mean for, trust me. I know, he started to say before Mai interrupted him, patting his cheek with a slight smirk before she got up and offered a hand to him to help him up. Thanks for protecting me though, you aren't hurt, right? She asked only for him to shake his head, which made her glad at least. She didn't know how she'd feel if he got hurt protecting her like this. Though next time I could do without the flying, she told him with a flat tone while she pulled him up to his feet. Sorry, flying out of there was the only way I could think of that ensured that the Avatar and his friends didn't try and fight us. They easily could have thought we were there to attack them, and honestly with the threat of being stuck in the spirit world I felt avoiding that was for the best, he told her, getting a nod from her before she pulled his bag up out of the sand for him. We should get going. Last thing we need is them finding us, as I don't feel like fighting, Mai said, handing his bag to him before motioning for him to follow only for a yip to catch their attention. Oh good. He did follow us, Naruto said with a smile as he crouched down a bit to pet the knowledge seeker that had ended up following him. Great, you have a pet. Now come on, we need to get moving, Mai said as she started walking on ahead, leaving him to quickly catch up once he found his sandals. Shouldn't we be calling out sandfish hounds? Naruto asked her while bringing out his metal canister, only for Mai to push his hand down a bit and point off at a dust storm a bit away from them, though he swore it was getting closer to them. Don't, there are sandbenders nearby. Sandbenders are raiders. They go after anyone traveling through the desert if they think they might have something interesting, and the last thing we need is for them to go after us for our sandfish hounds, she explained, which only made him a bit more confused. I thought sandfish hounds were the apex predator of the desert? Shouldn't they be able to outrun and take care of some sandbenders? He asked, since if they could take down sand sharks, some benders be no problem for them. Sandbenders are annoying as they are one of the few groups of people able to restrain them by trapping them in the sand. It's best to get some distance from the benders before we try calling them, I told him, remembering the warnings Azula had told her before they had left. Well, if that storm is sandbenders, they are coming this way, Naruto alerted her, as the storm had only been getting closer and closer since she pointed it out. Of course it is. Sandbenders go after anyone going through the desert, and we happen to be an oddity due to the fact we are traveling on foot. Be ready for a fight, Mai groaned out before she stopped in place, Naruto getting the message that they were now waiting for them to show up before they continue moving. It didn't take long for the sandbenders to arrive, their sand sailors surrounding them with several of them looking ready to attack. Traveling through the Siwang Desert on foot, eh? That's really dangerous, don't you think? A man asked, him stepping off one of the sand sailors and taking a few steps towards them. Don't worry, we can handle ourselves. How else do you think we got this far? Naruto replied, making sure to keep things nonchalant since he didn't want to give them any power, even if they were surrounding them. I see your point, but I can't just sit by and pass by someone in need. So how about we help guide you out in return for whatever is in your bag there, the sandbender said with a smirk clear in his tone as he pointed towards Naruto's bag. Yeah, no, we're fine on our own, so leave us be already, Mai told them flatly, glaring at the sandbender before she felt the canister shake a bit under her shirt. Sorry, but that isn't going to happen, especially now that we know you two have sandfish hounds. So how about we keep this simple? You give us what you have and we won't have to hurt you, he said as more sandbenders got off their sand sailors, the sand slowly starting to stir in a large circle around the two of them. I'd like to see you try, Naruto growled out, summoning his fire a bit before the sandbenders quickly summoned a tornado of sand around them. Ugh! Annoying sandbenders. They are like airbenders with how they use sand. Mai yelled as she pulled up her shirt a bit to cover her mouth while Naruto used his hand as best as he could. Naruto frowned as he looked around, knowing knives and fire wouldn't be of any use with this storm around them, and if they did nothing they'd most likely suffocate. How well would lightning work here? Naruto asked the QB, clenching his free hand as he heard a chuckle in his head. A little wind can't affect lightning, kid. Give them a nice warning, the QB said before lightning started to arc on Naruto's arm. Perfect, he thought with a smirk, pointing forward with 2 fingers and his thumb up as he took aim on the sand sailor behind the man he figured to be the leader of the group. He wasted no time before he fired his lightning, it hitting the mark and obliterating the sand sailor. The vortex quickly stopped after the sudden destruction of the sailor, the sandbenders obviously not expecting lightning, while Naruto smirked and summoned more lightning on both of his arms. I'll give you 5 seconds to flee before I start firing more lightning at all of you, and trust me, I'm a pretty good shot, he warned them, cracking his neck as he locked eyes with the leader. Retreat! Get out of here now! He yelled as Naruto and Mai watched him and the sandbenders quickly flee, the ones who were originally riding the destroyed sailor going to other ones so they weren't left behind. Good job, nice to see you can hit a target with something, at least, Mai teased him with a smirk while he simply rolled his eyes. Yeah, whatever. Let's just get out of here, Naruto said, flatly looking at her before opening his canister to summon their rides, the knowledge seeker grumbling in agreement. The desert was a nice experience, but he really found himself just wanting to leave now. Stupid sandbenders ruining the desert. He grumbled internally as Mai summoned her sandfish hound, also deciding this was enough desert for her as well. Guess next for me is Ba Sing Se. I wonder how that'll be, he thought as he found himself really looking forward to seeing the Earth Nation capital, and wondered how things would go in the impenetrable city. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section how was the story. And also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.